They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate. Elevate. They hate when you elevate. Elevate. Yeah. They hate when you elevate. Elevate. They hate when you elevate. Yeah. I had to elevate. I'm way too fly. Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Ain't no chance I'm coming down, no. Got a soul view to myself, yeah. Why would I give it up? Why do they wanna come take my place? I work too hard for it, don't need a replacement. This my vocation. Now I got rollies all in rotation. Hop on a jet just to take a vacation. Remember the moments was trapped in the basement. Now the hard work is all taking me places. Squatting all black like we trapped in the matrix. Bet on myself and go ball out in Vegas. Living a life like I'm rich and I'm famous. Don't see the grind that I know that it came with. I ain't make it this far for myself, yeah. I had to prove to everybody else. I had to set them straight. Yeah, I had to ball, so I had to renovate. I know they hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out. Yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment. I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate. Elevate. They hate when you elevate. Elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. Ooh, yeah. Why they wanna put me down? So much drip, yeah, I almost drowned in it. I can't come it down. Yeah, I'm way too fired up. I can't slow down. Ooh, yeah. I see the flashing lights. Make sure the fashion right, yeah. I'm in my bag tonight, yeah. Ooh.
All right. All right. Good morning. Clap it up one more time. One more again. Salute to everybody in the building. Appreciate you guys being here this morning. How y'all doing? It's your boy Rain. It's that ATP Combat Media Show. We back at it again. Announcement made yesterday. But I don't know. The boxing space doesn't seem to be really embracing. Well, I mean, it's always been split, right? As far as Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, and obviously there's other fights that involve both of these fighters that people kind of wanted to see as well, but also coming to a point where we have to come to an understanding at times. I guess the fighters get to a certain point in their careers where they can make these choices on who they want to fight. I don't know. We'll talk about it, right? You guys know where I stand on the fight personally. I love the fight, right? I love the fight, but it is what it is. And we also got to talk about Richard Hitchinson versus George Cambosus coming up this weekend. Big fight for Richard Hitchinson, huge fight for him. Finally getting an opportunity to get one of those names on his resume so he can get into the conversations of being part of some of the biggest fights that he can be involved in, the Teofimo Lopez's, unifications, the Devin Haney's, maybe even potentially go up to 147 pounds at some point. But it all starts here, right? Having that common opponent, a name like George Cambosus. We'll talk about that fight, the significance of the fight, and where's Hitchens' mind at for this fight. Interesting little face-off yesterday. Gave me some perspective a little bit about where Hitchens' mind may be at, and wondering if that's going to translate into one of his best performances ever, or does that translate into him potentially being upset because his mind maybe not where it's supposed to be, right? We'll talk about that as well. Turki Alalshikh has Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez in the same office. Canelo Alvarez states something significant, right? Basically saying this fight doesn't need to be sold. People can, a lot of people have to talk to sell fights and build up the value of a fight, but people understand when two generational talents get in the ring with each other, two people who stand on the integrity of the sport, that there's a potential for fireworks to happen, potential for history to be made. And I think that's what people are hoping for heading into a fight of this magnitude, to see a two-weight class undisputed champion in Terrence Crawford, a four-weight class champion in general, and a two-time undisputed multiple weight class champion as Canelo Alvarez get in the ring with each other, a face of boxing in Canelo Alvarez. We know what the potential is for a fight like that as well, but we'll talk about that. Turki Alalshikh speaks on the no running rule. So it looks like Turkey may be co-signing Showbiz's stance on a no running rule, and what a lot of boxing fans are clamoring about right now, especially ever since the Fatal Fury night in Times Square, right? A lot of people put that onus on the head of Devin Haney, saying that he ran around the ring. And I can empathize with that position. Devin Haney was definitely being very reserved and very defensively minded, to say the least. Used a lot of lateral movement in that fight. Some people might call it running. Either way, did it translate into something that benefits boxing, right? And I think that's the importance, and we have to remember, and we'll talk about it, that's what Turkey's stance is here for. It's not necessarily to bolster Devin Haney's brand or one particular fighter's brand, but more so to bolster the brand of boxing. And does the way that Devin Haney approached that fight with Jose Ramirez translate into something that benefits boxing on a broad spectrum of things? And do fighters like Devin Haney, or fighters who use a lot of lateral movement, need to start taking these things into consideration when they're talking about getting their biggest paydays and being sought out as in big fights, right? And see if Teofimo Lopez have a legitimate argument there when he speaks on, the fact that Devin Haney is not an exciting fighter, right? Or when Gervonta Tank Davis says he doesn't want to fight Devin Haney, does it hold any weight based off of Devin Haney's lack or will to engage, or any fighters in general who don't like to engage? How does that benefit the sport? And to hear Turki Alalshikh speak on it, it's a conversation to be had, right? I'm not here to put weight on Devin Haney's performance as much as just to, be honest and transparent to say, like, it does seem like that's what sparked this newfound, stance that a lot of boxing fans are making in the game, really wanting something done, wanting some contingency put in place to protect and hedge the amount of lateral movement in the fight. Balance is key, right? We all understand that lateral movement and athleticism is part of the sweet science and part of the sport that we've come to love, and we come to understand that as part of it. One of our favorite fighters, like Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, but got to remember he also focused on stinging like a bee. So balance is important when it comes to how that's going to be approached. We'll talk about that as well. Shout out to everybody in the building. I know we got a couple people in here. You guys know how it is. Early in the morning, I always tell you guys thank you for being here, because I know there's a lot of other content creators in the space also pushing out content in the boxing space. So I know, you being here is something special, and it means a lot to me. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat right now. Eastside Easy. Salute to you, King. Salute to Cleo World, Delonte Fam Sports, Fam Sports, DGO. DGO 0082. What up, Clay? What up to you, family? Mr. Big Play Bray says, good morning, boxing family. Mr. Big Play Bray has something to say, I guess, early here. Says boxing should pay a flat payout. Winner gets more, gets a KO, gets more. The only problem is the judges sometimes have crazy scores. That would be the problem. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of different ideas about how to approach the sport. Obviously, we understand that fighters are prize fighters. They're always looking to take advantage of their likeness, right? Of the brand that they've worked hard to build. Someone like Gervonta Tank Davis is going to have a hard time being put inside of a cookie cutter situation, or inside of a box, or put a ceiling over his head as far as what he's going to earn, whether it be him knocking somebody out, or whether it be him going 12 rounds. What about my likeness, right? What about my popularity? What about the amount of people who come in the building to see me fight, in opposed to who come to see the other guy fight? So it's hard to put a cookie cutter solution in this situation, right? But at the end of the day, one thing that a promoter like a Turki Alalshikh, or any real promoter in the sport, wants to be able to do is deliver a certain consistent product to the boxing fan. The boxing fan dictates the bottom line, the pay-per-view sold, the amounts of asses in the seats in the building, things of that nature. So that also, in the bigger picture, start to dictate the pay that a lot of these fighters can get, right? So that's where the conversation comes up to say that, well, if a fighter is not attracting fans, if fans are not interested in the way a fighter fights, then although the fighter is skilled for all argumentative purposes, what is the incentive for a promoter or an investor to get involved in a boxer's career, right? Is it about the sport, keeping the integrity of the sport? is that going to hold weight over the reality that all of sports entertainment is a business? Money in, money out. That's why people get into it. That's why you see these fighters walking around with them, $500,000 in jewelry around their neck, driving around in your favorite foreign cars, fashion up to the next level, right? There's a lot of money that's always been involved in boxing, and boxing's always been something that has attracted the boxing fan is the violence, right? It's the actual violence. It's the offensive, I don't want to say barbaric, but gladiatorish approach to the sport that intrigues the boxing fan and has the boxing fan wanting to come back for more. So is a promoter out of pocket for emphasizing that this is also a very important intangible that he wants to see the fighters attempt to hurt each other, right? Not just attempt to survive and not get hurt. We understand that's a very important part of the game, and we don't want the fighters just to get hurt. We don't want to, I don't want to see a fighter get hurt, but the intrigue is there that one of them can get hurt and that they both are ultimately trying to stop each other, get a victory over each other. And this is what puts the fans' asses in seats. So if a promoter decides that he doesn't want to work with a fighter who he doesn't believe is going to deliver that type of product, is the promoter out of pocket, or is the investor out of pocket for not wanting to pay? We just watched Teofimo Lopez go from, getting a fight with Drambus, and this is what he thought it was going to be, getting offered a certain amount of money. But ultimately, when Devin Haney came into the conversation, the money, according to what rumors are saying, the money was cut damn near in half. Well, what motivated the money to be cut in half? Why was the money cut in half? Was it because Devin Haney is a smaller fighter? I don't know. Like, what is it? Or is it the actual, sellability of the fight? Is it the money coming in? Is it the profitability of the fight? Is it what the fight is worth to the investor? Turki Alalshikh, did he see the performance of Devin Haney and feel like because of that performance, a certain amount of market value was taken away from the intrigue of watching Devin Haney fight, and that Teofimo Lopez doesn't have enough of a calling, or enough of a following to hold down an event on his own, that he needs a dance partner, and is Devin Haney not checking the boxes on what that dance partner looks like? So we saw Turki Alalshikh put a statement out here. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me see here. I'm trying to find it. Where is it, Turki? This will be watching from this point on. Here we go. Let's go on this one. Let's check this out together. Family, right? So Turki Alalshikh puts out a statement here, right? And let me see if I can make this bigger right here real quick. Of course you can. How do I make this bigger? Trying to figure out how to make this bigger. Well, let me just read it. So Turki Alalshikh puts out a statement yesterday. It says, from this point on is a very important part of the statement. The first part of this statement says, from now on. In other words, I wasn't really tripping on this before. I didn't think I needed to. I thought the nature of the sport would kind of handle this. But now, as I'm growing, as I'm evolving into understanding the promotion behind fighting, as I'm understanding what I'm paying for and what I'm versus what I'm getting, I have to make some adjustments in the way that I approach this matchmaking. Didn't think I'd have to, but from this point on, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches. Well, he says I don't want to see it, right? Which means he wasn't entertained by what he saw when he saw Devin Haney fighting against Jose Ramirez, or when he saw Canelo Alvarez fighting against William Skull. He wasn't entertained by it, right? And he wants to do something about that. He says, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter's running around the ring and the other is chasing him. I can empathize with that. I don't want to see that either, right? We can no longer support these kind of fights with Riyadh Season in the ring. In other words, as far as Riyadh Season is concerned, as far as the Ring magazine is concerned, the events that they're putting on, we're no longer going to stand for this and stand behind this and have this branded with our brand, be a product that people affiliate with the kind of entertainment that we deliver to the boxing space. We want to support the fighters who leave it all in the ring and fight with heart and pride. Some might say that was a message directly to Devin Haney, right? That's what a lot of people would like to say. And I understand where people would come from thinking that. I would say that obviously there were other fighters who had a low output of punches that weekend, including the Canelo Alvarez William Skull fight. Really, shout out to my Aki freaking flyer who sent me a link today showing me the punch output in all the fights that were going on damn near that weekend, as far as all the records that were there for the lowest fight output. Let me see here what I'm seeing here, right? So when I look at this list here, they had Canelo versus William Skull being the top fight. Then they had Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker. That fight was a fight with low punch output. We saw Deontay Wilder trying to box and move around the ring and really not letting his hands go. We saw they brought up Ibrahimov and Briggs. They brought off the Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero fight, which for all intent purposes, you know, at least we saw Rolly Romero pursuing a stoppage. We saw, you know, there was some definite danger, right? Indefinite danger that Ryan Garcia was in. So we never knew when it was going to happen, but ultimately not a lot of action in that fight. And then of course the Haney, Devin Haney, Ryan, what they put Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. That's interesting. I thought it was going to be Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez. I wonder if they made a mistake there. Anyway, that being said, so we need to do something about this, right? Turki Alalshikh agrees and says something needs to be done about this. Something needs to be done about this, right? What's going on here in the chat? Oh, let me see. Mr. Big Bray says, I think he feels guys are comfortable with just a payday. Yeah, 100%, right? I think I agree with that as well, Mr. Big Play Bray, to say that, yeah, guys are comfortable with their big paydays. I think Turki doesn't want to cut the paydays. He believes the boxers should get paid, you know, handsomely for their services, but he also believes in a return on service, to believe that what I'm getting back, what the fans more importantly are getting back, should, you know, qualify and legitimize and validate the pay I'm giving you. And maybe he's learning the hard way a little bit that the incentive should not be compromised for these fighters. In other words, these fighters should be fighting for something, and they shouldn't have anything that they haven't earned, because if they don't have to earn it, then there's a large percentage of the time where the fighter is just not going to voluntarily, right, take risk on needing to take a risk in the ring, right? For the most part, they won't. Let's see here. Let's see. AJ Moore says, bet you Turki don't even know how to explain what a runner is, because whatever he says it's plenty of examples to give to show he don't know what he's talking about, or he wouldn't keep the same energy. Listen, as a boxing fan, at a minimum, Turki at a minimum has an understanding of what he deems is running and what he finds entertaining. And if you want to play with his money, then you got to be you got to take his perspective into consideration. And really, every boxer should damn near take most fans' perspective into consideration. That would be the normal balance of how things work, being that we pay the pay-per-views and we pay to go in the building and see these guys fight, right? Things get moved around a lot when the pay is not aligned with the demand, right? When a fighter can be paid like Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, Jose Ramirez, Arnold Barbosa, right? When all these fighters get paid what they get paid without an audience, selling tickets isn't taken into consideration. Selling pay-per-views isn't taken into consideration. What does a fighter have as incentive in order to give that performance that's going to give him the incentive to perform at the highest level? When you watch Devin Haney fight against Ryan Garcia, what made Devin Haney fight Ryan Garcia the way he did? I would argue that the attention of the fans, wanting to be a star like Gervonta Tank Davis, wanting to sell more, wanting to bolster his own market value, made him continue to push and chase Ryan Garcia down and try to make something happen. He ran into a lot of shots, but he took a lot of risk because he had some incentive. He had a bigger picture in his mind about what he was trying to get out of that fight. Not only a victory, but also on how he'd be looked at after that fight. If you're being given a king's ransom, no matter how you perform one way or the other, then obviously you risk getting a performance like what we got that weekend in Fatal Fury in Times Square, right? It is what it is, right? So we had to keep those things into consideration. Me personally, I can empathize and I understand, and also understanding that Turki Alalshikh is here for what he can do for the sport of boxing and what the sport of boxing can do for his country in Saudi Arabia. No one fighter is bigger than the program. You know, he may celebrate Devin Haney for the accolades that he's received. He may have seen Devin Haney in some fights that he was entertained in, maybe against Vasily Lomachenko, maybe what he did against what's my guy's name that he took care of at 140. I don't know, my mind's running in circles right now for some reason. But we may look at those performances, and there's plenty of performances that Devin Haney's had that we can say, yo, these were great performances. But at the same time, is the relationship that Turki Alalshikh has with any particular fighter going to stop him from acknowledging that, yo, that last performance you gave me, I can't see that anymore. I can't see that anymore. And when you have somebody like Bill Haney speaking towards the fight being the way he wanted it to happen, that is exactly what he wants to deliver. Well, now it becomes, all right, well, I mean, if you're telling me you're purposely delivering this type of product to me, then I got to communicate, I got to communicate that I don't want to see that no more, and I'm not willing to pay for that anymore. And if you calling that the sweet science of boxing, well, when it comes to that kind of boxing, I don't know how interested I am, and I don't know how that reflects in the pay and opportunities that I'm willing to facilitate for you. Because at a minimum, it should help the sport. Because where Turki Alalshikh will be at a point right now where he'll say profit is not the big thing for him all the way, that he's willing to put money in, understanding that this is a marathon, not a race, ultimately disenchanting the fan from watching the sport isn't his goal either, right? He at a minimum wants to still have some influence over the sport and some influence over the motivation and incentivizing the best fighting the best, and what that looks like for a boxing fan to see the best fight the best. Because if the best fighting the best is both of these guys trying to protect their O's and not trying to take any risk and not really trying to compete at the highest level, then what real incentive does a casual fan have at seeing the best fight the best? I'd argue that they'd be way more interested in seeing the best fighting cab drivers if it makes the fight more exciting, if it raises the chances of a potential knockout or real violence or things of that nature. Why would the casual fan care about the best fighting the best if the advantage isn't highlighted? It doesn't make sense. It don't make sense. Not only dollars, but if it don't make sense even for the goals of Saudi Arabia, then they're going to push back, right? They're definitely going to push back. What do we got here, man? Let me see here. Mr. Big Play said, I remember the UFC was a lot of wrestling making guys tap out. Dana White told the guys to get more active, and they start to KO guys. Exactly. We appreciate the ground game in mixed martial arts. We appreciate that. But if it's excessive, then it takes away from the excitement of the fight. And if the fight isn't exciting, I mean, for all, yes, it's in compliance with the rules and you consider these fighters active, but if fans aren't interested in seeing that and it becomes excessive, then you risk your bottom line being affected. And if the bottom line is affected, well, that makes us mess up the sport for everybody, because what inspires a Dana White or whoever the powers that be that push the needle at the UFC to be invested in a sport like this if it's not the profit? Let's not get it twisted, right? Let's be honest about that. AJ Moore says, fire facts. I just did a Google search. Ramirez threw 4 punches than Saul. So I don't know how haters can say Jose didn't do anything but have zero smoke for the drug cheat, Saul. Yeah. Yep. Haney versus Ramirez had 503 punches thrown, which was more than all the fights mentioned. I mean, guys, at the end of the day, for me, it's a very simple thing. Is it working or is it not working? And if it's not working, then there need to be adjustments made, right? If it's not working, there needs to be adjustments made. And what's not working? What is considered not working? Not working means nobody wants to see you fight. Everybody's disappointed in what they saw in the fight. Nobody's looking forward to your next fight. Other fighters are not looking forward to sign contracts to get in fights with you because they feel like they're going to be chasing you around the ring. If that's the energy you're bringing, then how many hands can you force into position to force people to eat, digest, and process something that they're not interested in eating? What are you serving? If your favorite dish you serve is macaroni and cheese, but everybody thinks your mac and cheese is trash, well, you can have pride in your mac and cheese and says, listen, I love my mac and cheese, and I know I put my heart into it, and my family loves it, and that's good enough for me. All right, well, but don't make your restaurant staying open or closed, put it on the back of that macaroni and cheese without at least thinking that you're going to improve on the macaroni and cheese, because ultimately you can't force anybody to buy your mac and cheese. They have to want it. You have to make it tasty, tantalizing, flavorful, cheesy. You have to check all those boxes that they want in order for you to sell the macaroni and cheese and make it a profitable business for you to stay in, to keep your doors open, to keep the lights on in the building that you're running a business out of. So it's something for them to take into consideration. That's all. It's all it is. Ross Clot, salute to Ross Clot in the building, says the problem with fans is what's entertaining to you may not be entertaining to me. Haney Shakur, Canelo last fight was born as fuck, and it is what it is. Exactly, Ross Clot. That's the reality, right? I think sometimes fans get caught up on trying to argue you into believing and convincing you that you're being entertained when you're not being entertained, right? They want to convince you that, listen, this was a great fight. Let me show you how. And they never want to get to the point to where they accept the fact that, all right, well, this didn't work for you. This is not what you want to see. Now the question is, when that starts adding up into hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, a majority of a boxing space that you plan on marketing to bolster your brand, well, it might be time for you to take that into consideration, because there's only so long you can go on arguing about your performance being something that a fan should really be jumping on. For Bill Haney to sit there in the interview and say the fans don't know anything about boxing, they don't know what they're watching, that's why they're saying what they're saying. All right, that's cool. That could hold some truth to it, maybe not. But at the end of the day, does it help your bottom line? Because the only reason why you could walk away from a fight that way and get paid is because Turki Alalshikh is willing to pay you for it. Now, what happens if Turki Alalshikh hits reverse in his car and decides he doesn't want to be involved in that kind of fight anymore? Like, he's put a statement out here to say that that's how he feels. Well, what happens at that point? Now, you got to convince promoters who have to find a way and are concerned about their bottom line and concerned about making money. You have to find a way to convince them that you're worth $3-5 million up front guaranteed, that you're going to sell X amount of tickets, sell X amount of pay-per-views, because they're concerned, because their profit sits on the back end of these events being successful or not. Not everybody has a whole entire country in a PIF fund, a public investment fund, that they can throw behind the sport to pay you no matter what up front, whether it sells or it doesn't. Right? It is what it is. Shout out to Roscoe in the building. Roscoe says, even Shakur talking about putting on better performances. 100%, Roscoe. That's a fact. Even he understands, even at the detriment of his own hands, right? At the detriment of his own hands, Shakur is saying, listen, man, whatever it takes. He understands what moves the needle. And Turkey clearly understands what moves the needle as well. So fighters are going to have to get in line. Fighters are going to have to get in line. Very simple as that. They're going to have to decide, and they're going to have balance, because too much of anything is bad, right? The fighter still has to be defensively responsible for himself. Athleticism will always get the respect that it needs. Moving is part of the sport, but obviously there's a thin line between running and moving, and the fighters have to find that perfect median balance in order to deliver a product that is marketable from a promoter standpoint of view, but also stays true to the sport and stays true to the sweet science of the sport and what it is. Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, was a fighter that was able to balance that out pretty well. I was never bored at watching Floyd Mayweather fight. There was always engagement, but there was a lot of defense, a lot of movement, right? He believed in hitting and not getting hit. He was an avid believer in that, but he always found a way to deliver a performance that was a good enough performance to where you'd want to see him fight again. Hence him building his market value up and him being one of the highest paid athletes in the sport that the sport has ever seen, if not the highest paid athlete that the sport has ever seen. Right? It is what it is. Let's see what we got going on here. Malaya Rain says Tank and Abdullah is American boxing at this point. I don't know if they're solely American boxing at this point. I get your point that you like the way Abdullah fights. There's a lot of talented American boxers out there. A lot of talent. At the top of the list, you know, Tank is always going to be there, somewhere in the top of the list as far as must-see boxing and what he does to the space. But there's a lot of talent out there, up-and-coming talent. Abdullah Mason definitely being one of them. You got Emiliano Vargas, right? You've got, you know, even the Floyd Schofields in the game, the Jaleel Hackett's of the game. You got plenty of fighters, right? Gary Antoine Russell, right? Fighters that are just exciting fighters, must-see boxers. Jerron Boots Ennis, fighters that you want to see fight, that you watch perform and they give you those performances and you enjoy watching them. David Benavidez, right? So, yeah, Abdullah Mason is definitely making his way up there, but he still has a lot to earn, a lot of respect to earn. He's definitely on the right path and the right trajectory, but I definitely wouldn't put him up there as a face of American boxing right now, or you know, or that being it, right? There's a lot more fighters to pick from than just those two guys. Let me see. Mr. Big Play said even Floyd in the build up for the Mosley said he need to be more active and he put on a show. 100%. He always did. He always did. And when it comes to this conversation about Devin Haney, you know, I like Devin Haney. I like Bill Haney. You know, some people think I'm a fan of these guys. I don't think I'm a fan, but I mean, I'm a fan in a healthy level, just of respect to them as the athlete that he is. But I'm not a fan. I'm not emotionally invested into Devin Haney's career. So, but for the most part, I find myself on the side of defending Devin Haney a lot because I think he gets a lot of flack and a lot of hate, unneeded hate, and he gets held to a standard sometimes I think is not held across the board. But at the end of the day, the performance he had in Fatal Fury, it's earned the scrutiny and the criticism that it's gotten. And it's up to him to change the trajectory of that scrutiny in his next performance, making his next performance, making his next move his best move, right? Really important. Very, very important that he does that. He ain't American, but I like Rohan Polanco, but he brings the pain. He brings the pain 100%, Malaya. Rohan Polanco is not American. You're right. But definitely a up-and-coming welterweight fighter right now who's going to be shaking it up. Who knows where he might end up, right? See, depending on what Jerron Boots Ennis might do, Rohan might end up in front of Brian Norman at some point, sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later. So, yeah, I mean, how do I feel to wrap it up and land my plane on Turki Alalshikh's statement on what he thinks about running in the sport and how he feels like he's done with it? I empathize and I understand where he's coming from. I do. And I think he's well within his right. Obviously, he's well within his right to have an opinion, but as an investor in the sport who is right now building his brand up and building his reputation up, he does not want to affiliate himself with those type of fights and those type of events. And as a boxing fan, you should be happy about that and excited about that, to know that what he likes, you likes, and vice versa, right? And that he's going to work and he's on board to deliver a certain level. He has a certain expectation for the level of product that he puts out there, and that benefits us in the sport. It is what it is. Bradley says Claymore Ray, he knows has a big heart. I blame Bill for that last fight. Yeah, I agree with you as well, Bradley. I think that Devin Haney, I was talking to, I don't know who I was talking to about this recently, but I was saying that Bill Haney seems to have suffered a little bit more PTSD in that Ryan Garcia fight than Devin did, right? I know it sounds crazy, but it seems like Bill has made it a personal mission statement for him to protect his son at all costs. You know, damn these fans, damn everybody else, fight the way I want you to fight, because he doesn't want to see his son vulnerable and hurt and in the condition that he felt like he probably pushed his son to be in. When you watch that fight that he had with Devin Haney, a lot of what was going, or with Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, a lot of what was going in that fight, if you watch that corner work, Bill was sending him back in there, telling him to double down, throw that brick hand, telling him to be even more using his will and throw more power shots. So it looks like Bill takes a little bit of ownership of what he saw in that fight, and now moving Devin Haney in a way that's safer for Devin. And Devin being the person who's going to follow the instructions and stay close to what his father says, he has to suffer the ultimate criticism. But I do have an argument in my mind, and I wonder if Bill Haney is in position mentally to deal with the idea of allowing his son to take the risk needed in order to deliver the show that boxing fans want to see. Is he in position to risk Devin Haney getting clipped, getting knocked out, getting hurt, in the spirit of Devin taking risk to do that to other people? Right? I don't know. And if he's not in a position to do that, if Bill's not in that position to do that without having reservations, then should Bill Haney consider potentially moving out of the way and allowing a trainer who's going to allow Devin to tap into that heart that we all believe he has to give the performances that we all know he can give? Or is Bill over it at this point after seeing the performance? Is he confident? Is he seeing whatever he needs to see? Or the boxes being checked for him to feel confident enough to allow Devin to go ahead and, flap his wings, right? We'll see. We'll see. Let me see. Legacy got facts. So let me see. Respected Devin Haney, who has great heart of boxing. 100%. 100%. Legacy's claim more reign. Devin showed heart. Yeah, for sure. And he's always showed heart. Devin Haney, and I think Showbiz commented on this, but Devin doesn't fight normally the way he fought against Jose Ramirez. That has to be taken into consideration, right? Because some people take what Turki Alalshikh said as well, then we're never going to see Devin Haney fight again because that's how Devin Haney fights. No, Devin Haney does not fight that way. That's not what he normally does. Normally, he engages, he moves around, he stays behind his jab, but he engages. He usually balances it up pretty well. Devin Haney's never shown me any characteristics to show me he's a person who didn't have heart. But in that fight with Jose Ramirez, on the back end of the performance that happened with Ryan Garcia, it did look like he became a lot more reserved. And that translated into a not as good product as we've come to expect from Devin Haney. Right? So that's where I'm at with it when it comes to Turki Alalshikh's statement. I think it makes sense to me. Without a doubt, it makes sense to me. I think that I think a lot of Devin Haney fans are going to take it as a personal shot to Devin Haney, and maybe to a certain degree it is in response to Devin Haney's performance. But ultimately, it works across the board, just in boxing in general. We obviously couldn't include William Skull and Canelo Alvarez in the conversation. We obviously can include a lot of other performances, not only Turkey card, but other performances. Shakur Stevens and Del Santos. They brought up the Deontay Wilder and the Joseph Parker situation. So there's a lot of different performances that can fall under that category. It's just that Devin Haney was the most recent one that came out. Number one. Number two, it was on a Turkey card, right? So Turkey suffered a lot of the backlash and a lot of the criticism from the boxing space for the event that he put together. So it is what it is. Shout out to the Queen. Nick Jane, the building says, is this a one fight got folks coming with all this energy towards Haney? Did we not see Garcia and Skull? How's the whole conversation about Devin? Oh, I know why. Well, from my point of view, the whole conversation isn't about Devin, right? But I think when you see Turki Alalshikh make a statement like that, a lot of people feel like it was pointed towards Devin. And I can understand why they felt like it was pointed towards Devin because of all the criticism Devin was getting for the way the fight looked. And I'm here to say that it's not just about Devin, that it's boxing in general. Just in general. And I think Turki saying that, his most recent experience is what happened with Canelo Alvarez and William Skull and what happened between Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez. So there's an argument there to say that he's speaking to Canelo Alvarez and William Skull as well, right? Or Canelo Alvarez specifically, being that Canelo Alvarez is one of his fighters now. The statement holds weight, and boxing fans do themselves a disservice by making it all about one fighter, right? This is about multiple fights compounding into an actual opinion about what can be done and what contingencies can be put in place to stop excessive lack of engagement in a sport built on a contact sport, right? It is what it is. I don't think people need to take it as bad as they're going to take it, but I understand where people come from because, like I said, it comes off the back end of that performance. And once again, I don't think Devin Haney fights like that normally. And I expect and hope that in his next performance that he comes in a complete different way. I personally don't want to see him continue to fight the way he fought against Jose Ramirez. But I have a feeling that was a build-up fight. That was a fight where Devin Haney was recovering and making sure that he had some skin in the game in the right place and that his mentality was clear and that he was going to be able to deal with whatever happens inside the ring. Devin seems to have walked away feeling very confident about what he can do. Bill seems confident. So I expect the next fight to be a fight that that Devin Haney shows and prove that, there's levels of this game, there's wrinkles to my game. And what you saw that night was one version of me, but don't discount what I've done, all my fights I've done before. And also, obviously, this performance I'm going to give you in this next event will show you that that's not the end all be all. You know what I mean? Let me see here. What's good, family? Salute Joseph Johnson in the building. Salute Cheech in the building. Salute. Cheech says, you think he was targeting Devin? Why? He was going to make Dev versus Tio. That's what I'm saying, Cheech. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't think he was talking directly to Devin. But I do believe the performance specifically that Devin had that night against Jose Ramirez is part of the reason why he made that statement. It has to be. It's an event he was involved with. It's too much pushback going on the event because of the performance for him not to have taken that into consideration. The same way when Showbiz decided to make the statement that he wants to make a no running rule, he did that on the back end of a breakdown that he was putting on for the Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez performance and for the Canelo Alvarez and William Skull performance. But like Showbiz tried to explain, it's not just for Devin. Like he said, Devin doesn't normally fight that way. But in general, in boxing, people don't want to see that. Right? People don't want to see that. I teach, you know what? I double down. I agree with you again on that and say that more than likely, there was a lot more emphasis on William Skull's performance than Devin's performance, right? But I think the Devin fans are the ones who kind of find this statement a little bit of, they feel like Devin's being attacked. They do. I hear it. You might not feel that way. I don't feel like Devin's being attacked, but I've heard enough from a lot of fans, from comments in the videos to different chat rooms. A lot of people feel like every time somebody brings up the don't running rule, that they're speaking towards Devin Haney. It is what it is. Bradley 68 said Tim Bradley is not a Hall of Famer in my home. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Has to stop somewhere, otherwise fighters is a Hall of Fame. Bradley don't belong in there at all. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at on that particular topic. I do want to segue and continue to move forward. That's where I'm at as far as Turki Alalshikh and his statement that he made as far as no running is concerned. Now, also, we can get into this Terrence Crawford Canelo Alvarez fight. Woo! Let's get into this Terrence Crawford. Let's get into this Terrence Crawford Canelo Alvarez fight. Announcement's been made, ladies and gentlemen. And you guys know I've been pushing for this fight to be made for a while now. But I'm starting to realize that I hate to say I'm starting to realize, right? Because I've been here just like you guys have been here. I know that a lot of fans feel like Terrence Crawford is too small for this, has no chance. That there's other people who deserve the opportunity over Terrence Crawford, like let's say David Benvidez, right? Bigger fights to be made at 168 that they want to see Canelo Alvarez involved in. And Terrence Crawford is coming up multiple weight classes in order to make this fight happen. But there's a narrative getting pushed out there right now that this fight is some sort of travesty towards boxing. That this fight just continues to embolden the idea that fighters get preferential treatment. They don't have to fight their mandatories, and then they get to cherry pick fights in order to make money, but also protect themselves from getting an L. And for me, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around the idea that Terrence Crawford is a cherry pick. That Terrence Crawford isn't a two-weight class undisputed champion, four-weight class champion. That he's not arguably the pound-for-pound best fighter of this era. Arguably. You can have your opinions on who you think it is if it's not him, but arguably, he's in the conversation for it. How can a fighter like that be a cherry pick? How is that possible? Right? There's a lot of emotional baggage being dropped off here in this boxing space right now because of Canelo Alvarez not fighting David Benvidez. Right? A lot of emotional baggage being dropped off. People are just upset and really just butthurt at the idea that Canelo Alvarez has been able to manipulate and move the way he feels like moving in the boxing space, and that the sanctioning bodies, promoters, everything around him as far as boxing is concerned, pretty much have humbly taken the knee to Canelo Alvarez's wishes and to the leverage that he controls and he wields, which is the amount of eyes that come to watch him box, the amount of asses in the seats in the buildings that he fights in, the amount of pay-per-views that are sold, the amount of money there is to be made on the back end of a Canelo Alvarez brand. We've seen the boxing space acquiesce and take a knee and get and facilitate and cater to whatever Canelo Alvarez wants done. So now Canelo Alvarez has earned the this reputation to where if it's not David Benvidez or a fighter that you guys want to see him fight against, that now the fight is a cherry pick. I literally want to, I don't know if Spock, JR Spock is in the building or not, but he put a comment on our video I did yesterday, and he was passionate in his response to the video I made. He was passionate, and just felt like, it was unfair that Terrence Crawford went over so many different contenders who are working in the division to fight Canelo Alvarez who aren't getting the fight, and that he's able to surpass all these contenders and get into this opportunity. A part of me, and then he called, shout out JR Spot, right? Felt like I was maybe glazing a little bit the Terrence Crawford Canelo Alvarez fight, that it didn't deserve the amount of attention and it didn't deserve to be celebrated, that it was actually part of the reason that boxing is in the position that it is in right now. Clearly, I don't feel that way, right? But I try to empathize, especially with people who are on my channel, people who I know support my channel. I try to empathize with their position when they speak. And I try not to take the position of, what are you talking about, right? And JR Spock has been somebody who's been here on this channel for a long time and, has always contributed in a positive way. But this fight triggers him. This fight triggers him as another fight that Canelo Alvarez is cherry picking, that he's moving around and he's not fighting the fights that we want to see him fight in. And it just gets under his skin, right? It is what it is. Shout out Anton Ziegler in the building. Shout out Anton. What's good with you, family? Salute to you. Visionary, salute to you too. Knows to everybody is not fast on his feet. But I obviously have a different position on this fight. I hold a different position on the value of this fight. As I told you guys before, special fighters do special things. I think Terrence Crawford is a special fighter. I think he's the kind of fighter to give us once in a lifetime or once in a generation performance against the Canelo Alvarez. Not many fighters can carry out what Terrence Crawford is attempting to do. And I'm too excited to see him get the opportunity to challenge himself at this level, to answer the questions for himself, but also to allow me as a fan to watch him potentially make history, beat the face of boxing in Canelo Alvarez, and become a three-weight class undisputed champion. I think there's a legacy written all over a fight like that. like this. I understand people feel like they want to see David Benvidez there. That David Benvidez should have been the one fighting Canelo Alvarez. That maybe even a Diego Pacheco or Christian Mbili or, you know, maybe a Jamal Charlo is a fighter that you guys might rather see. I argue and I say, yeah, those fights are always there to be made. Canelo Alvarez is getting older and getting to a point into his career where he's done so much in his career, he's earned the right to pick and choose a little bit on who he wants to fight. I'm actually happy that Canelo Alvarez decided to be involved in a fight like this and give an opportunity for Terence Crawford to get in the same conversation with him. And I'm also happy at Terence Crawford challenging himself. I know people would rather see him unify 154 pounds, fight the fighters like Bakram Murtazaliev and Sebastian Fundora, right? Fight Jamel Charlo maybe in the return, become an undisputed champion at 154. I understand. And that'd be something I'm interested in watching as well. Maybe even fight a Jerron Boots Ennis at 154. But in my opinion, the movement and the faith and betting on himself to go ahead and go up to 168 pounds with no weight rehydration clauses, no contingencies in there to protect him, to challenge himself at this level is super admirable, and it's what boxing should always be about. It's what boxing is about. If Teofimo Lopez did get the opportunity to fight Jerron Boots Ennis or Terence Crawford, I would have celebrated Teofimo on that level to say, man, he got it. He's challenging himself. This is definitely a lot of danger that he's putting himself into. And I'd celebrate him for it, for getting it. We tend to hate a little bit too much and get a little too deep into criticizing and scrutinizing these fighters who are challenging themselves in the way that Terence Crawford is trying to challenge himself. Right? Let me see here. Salute T-Bugs. What's good with you, family? Ross Scott said David Benavidez should have never lost the belt on the scale. If he kept the belt, this Canelo situation would be a lot different. Got to blame Benavidez ultimately. Yeah, I agree. If you give Canelo Alvarez the way to maneuver and he's in compliance with who he needs to be in compliance with, you can't fault him for taking advantage of whatever's on the table for himself. You can't blame him for that, right? You can't blame Canelo Alvarez for operating inside of his means to protect himself, protect his brand, and to make the most money he can make. You can't. I always say that the argument needs to be with the sanctioning bodies. If there's an issue with how Canelo has moved in the past couple of years, the shots need to be thrown at Mauricio Suleiman, the governing bodies that control the mandatory assignments on these belts, right? One second here. I know I missed somebody here. Thank you for the support from Mr. Big Play Bray with the $2, man. Support. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, family. Thank you. Let me see here. What's going on in the chat? Devontre Bones says it would be better for Bud to fight Lara. See? That's more even. Y'all trying to see Bud lose is crazy work. David versus Bud is dumb. I agree. It's like Keyshawn should have ever fight Charlo. He couldn't fight Boots though. Yeah. The difference with this Terence Crawford fight is that Terence Crawford wants to do this. He's measured Canelo Alvarez as an opponent and said that I can beat him. As a fan of Terence Crawford, I want to see him execute on that. Why wouldn't I? And understanding that the risk is him taking the loss and ready to deal with that. And if he does lose, to understand that he lost trying to be great. Right? Big Herm with $2 holler in the building. Salute. Big Herm says Benvidez wet the bed, insult Turkey on purpose. Flyer said, Canelo said, if you are a true Canelo fan, you wouldn't want to see him get hurt when he asked about fighting the Mexican monsters. So we don't blame Canelo. I don't listen, like I said, if the WBC is not going to sanction that fight, make it mandatory, the way they did with Dimitri Bivol and David Benavidez, then how can I blame Canelo Alvarez? It annoys me. I've complained for years that I wish Canelo Alvarez at a minimum would have vacated these belts just to allow the division to move forward. But at the end of the day, from Canelo Alvarez's point of view, if I'm allowed to do it, why shouldn't I do it? And who did tell me not to do it? It is what it is, right? It is what it is. Say that Bud should have fought Morrell and Benvidez. This article stated that Bud should have fought Morrell and David Benvidez before Canelo. Yeah, that's a stupid comment. I hate when people say that. I hate when people don't want to acknowledge the intangibles in the Canelo Alvarez fight. I hate when people don't want to acknowledge that there's a reason why Terrence Crawford picked Canelo Alvarez. That Canelo Alvarez is a small 168-pound fighter. 168-pound fighter. For people to say that if you want to fight Canelo, then you should be wanting to fight David Benvidez or fight David Morrell or fight these natural 168-pound fighters who are probably getting ready to move up to the light heavyweight division at some point and maybe go higher than that in their careers. In comparison to Canelo Alvarez, who is, let's be honest, a 160-pound fighter probably at his heart and, can compete all day long at 154 pounds probably without thinking about it. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Let me see here. Big Hearn says he chose to go at Turkey knowing Canelo was with him. He don't want Canelo deep down in two big cruisers, and too big a cruiserweight now. I agree with you on that as well. As far as David Benavidez actually wanting that fight with Canelo Alvarez, you'd have thought he'd have played a lot more nice with Turki Alalshikh. That whole entire Turki Alalshikh David Benavidez situation. I could stay on that topic all day long because that just did not go the way I felt like it should go. That did not move in the right way at all. Not at all. Didn't make any sense to me. To this day, does not make sense to me. Except for one thing that makes sense, which is staying loyal to the PBC, right? That's it. Staying loyal to Samson Leakowitz. I get it. That's about it. That's about it. Salute 2 Cents Boxing in the building. How you doing, Queen? Hope all is good. Hope all is good and all is well with you, Queen. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. I'm gonna throw the link out soon too as well, but I do want to tap into this Terrence Crawford fight and Canelo Alvarez fight in a little bit just to say that. So finally, the announcement's been made. It's going down in Vegas. Where in Vegas? We don't know where yet. Negotiations are still going down, I guess, with the Allegiant. And as far as I guess a UNLV game that's supposed to be on that date, seeing if they can either move the date for the game or move the venue where the game's going to happen at to allow there to be an open space to put this event together in. I know there's been a lot of scrutiny for Turki Alalshikh's approach to boxing as far as announcing things before they're all put together, right? That's something that he has to learn. I think he is learning. Definitely on that Times Square event, that kind of didn't work out well for him. All that tournament nonsense, just to see Teofimo go in a different direction, just to see Ryan Garcia lose the way he did and go into his little hiatus all of a sudden. And now it's like, what do we do? Is there a tournament going on? How is this actually going to work? But at the end of the day, the event being delivered is still an accomplishment within itself. It really is. When you think about where Canelo and Terrence Crawford were at in negotiations a year and some change ago to where they're at today, shout out to the resilience and determination of wanting to put something together, even when most of the boxing space is telling you to leave it alone. It ain't going to happen, right? Shout out to that happening. Let's see here. What we got going on here? What did 2 Cents say? Facts the Butcher. Facts the Butcher. What the Butcher said. Everyone don't want to rock with Turkey. Sometimes they comfortable where they at. Well, yeah, and I'm assuming the Butcher, you're talking about the David Benavidez comment that I made as far as not understanding that move. I'm all for that, the Butcher. I'm really all aboard on that, right? Like, David Benavidez has every right to be comfortable. He has every right to be comfortable. But at the same time, I offer a little pushback to say that at one point or another, we all thought that the most important things to David Benavidez was becoming a champion, unified, undisputed, getting a fight with Canelo Alvarez, all these different things. that we thought he wanted more than anything else. And in essence, by him not coming to the table with Turki Alalshikh, not to say that he's supposed to leave the PBC and go with Turki. I'm not saying that at all. He's supposed to, be loyal to who's been loyal to you, but it does seem like he kind of threw all that away. I don't see the return on the other side that puts him in front of Canelo Alvarez, or puts him right now, at least, in front of a Dimitri Bivol, or the winner between Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. When I hear conversations about him going to the cruiserweight division and competing up there to fight against Zurdo Ramirez, it does seem like he kind of walked away and kind of shot himself in the foot, or something changed, at least for him, as far as what he wants to do. It seems like something changed. Like those things aren't as prevalent for him anymore in the front of his mind of the things he wants to accomplish over maybe making the money, or I'm not too sure. It's just confusing because him going over to Saudi Arabia in the first place showed me that he was interested in that when he decided to take that trip. If he would have decided beforehand, I'm not going over there, that's not what I'm doing, it would have made a little bit more sense to me what happened. But to see him actually take the flight, go over there, we knew what was on the table. We knew what the mission was going over there. To see him walk away from it the way he did, I don't know. Just looked like he shot himself in the foot a little bit. That's all. Didn't make any sense to me. Just didn't make any sense to me, man. Shout out to my brother Blue Blood Sports TV in the building. Blue Blood says the number one rule of being successful is once you get comfortable, make a change. A man should never bathe in comfort. I like that, Blue Blood. I like that. And that's, I love that statement you just made right there, because I think that's where it comes to me, right? That David Benvidez has every right to be comfortable, but on the road to success and getting things accomplished, comfort can be your worst enemy. And it seemed like when it came time for him to sacrifice the comfort, he wasn't willing to do that, which makes me question how bad did he want those fights? It makes me question how bad did he push for the fight to happen at 168 with Canelo Alvarez? Did he pull all the stops? Did he activate all mandatories? Did he do everything he could to make that fight happen? Or did he focus more on being comfortable? Did he focus more on being comfortable? If he indeed focused more on being comfortable, well, it's going to be hard to accomplish a lot of big goals, because a lot of the big goals you want to accomplish in your life, you guys who have accomplished things in their life or on the road of trying to accomplish things would empathize with the idea that it's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be in your backyard. For David Benavidez and Samson Leakowitz to decide to go to Saudi Arabia, and the idea in their mind that they're going to dictate terms to an undisputed light heavyweight champion in Dimitri Bivol, and have the fight be in David Benavidez's backyard where he's more comfortable, and have it be the way they want it to be, or the fight doesn't happen, makes it seem like if it doesn't fit a certain look, that you're not going to be willing to sacrifice. Devin Haney had to go to Australia and fight in the backyard of George Cambosus not once but twice in order to get something accomplished that he wanted. He had to be uncomfortable. He had to risk his father not being there to help him train and being there to support him fighting. He had to go there without his father, and alhamdulillah, his father was able to get past his passport issues and was able to get in the country and support his son, but he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice in order to achieve his dreams. I thought that David Benavidez was going to move that way. I really thought that when it came down to it, he was really being ducked, and that's why the fights weren't happening. Not that he would ever walk away from an opportunity because it was going to disturb his comfort. Right? That's how I looked at it. I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is. Let me see here. The Butcher says Canelo explained he doesn't want to fight him, so he moved on, and now he's a champion and chasing 175-pound belts. Can't wait for Canelo to fight him. I mean, I hear you, the Butcher. That's where I was at in the beginning, but now I do have questions. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not all the way sold to say that. I don't know where I'm at all the way, but I definitely got my glasses on with David Benavidez. I'm definitely watching him a little closer and a little bit differently than I was before. Sometimes, we watch Keyshawn Davis kind of move a certain way, Watch a lot of fighters finally get that opportunity, finally get the look they're looking for, and all of a sudden, you know, that hunger looks different. It's not the same hunger anymore. So we'll see what David Benavidez does, but that move he did with Turki Alalshikh was definitely a it didn't seem like it made sense to, and it benefited him in the right way in the bigger picture. It seemed like the opportunity to become an undisputed light heavyweight champion, the opportunity to fight against and beat the man who beat the man you're trying to fight in Dimitri Bivol. It seemed like there was a lot more opportunity there coming to the table with Turki Alalshikh than walking away and putting the onus on your promoter's ability to facilitate fights that they, you know, in the past haven't been able to facilitate for you. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's see here. Cheat says it happens in boxing. You get robbed for various reasons. If he didn't feel comfortable fighting Turkey's guy over there, I don't blame him. I hear you. I hear you, man. I hear you. Bradley 68 says, I'm not a big fan of Floyd, but the man is one of the greats to ever do it, but close, but not at this point, in my opinion. Okay. So yeah, bringing it back full circle. Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez in Las Vegas, September 13th on Netflix, being promoted, co-promoted by Dana White, TKO Boxing, Nick Khan, in conjunction with Ring Magazine, Fatal Fury. Once again, Turki Alalshikh, in my opinion, just continues to show improve. Setbacks or no setbacks. Everything doesn't have to go perfect. Sometimes on the journey to get to where you need to get to, a lot of things aren't going to be perfect, but relentless and committed, in my opinion, to delivering the biggest and best events possible. And this fight right here is just another testament to it, to be able to deliver something that most people thought he wasn't going to be able to deliver. Right? It is what it is. But again, they can't say Shakur need to go to the PBC for the same fight, then say David doesn't need to at least play nice with Turkey for the Canelo. Well, that's where I'm at with it. Sometimes you got to move the right way in order to get what you want. And I would never think that moving the right way for David Benavidez would be something that David Benavidez would allow to get in his way to getting what he wants. I never saw it that way with him. I was clearly wrong. If somebody would ask me what David Benavidez would have done at an opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez, if the cost tag, we're talking about somebody who wanted to fight Canelo Alvarez and sent out a message to Turki Alalshikh and said, Turkey, can you do me a favor and pay Canelo Alvarez for this fight? He was willing to do whatever he had to do then. What changed? Did he get more comfortable? I don't know. But all of a sudden, that hunger and by, you know, whatever it takes mentality he had changed. It changed. It changed for him. Canelo's favorite on every platform. He's a special case. Okay. No doubt, Teach. I hear you, brother. I hear you, man. I hear you. I can't argue with you, man. He definitely is one of those guys. He's not like everybody else, right? He's not like everybody else. It is what it is. So I want to segue and go ahead and tap into this Richard Hitchinson card, and then I'll open up the panel for anybody who wants to come up. So Richardson, Hitchens, and George Cambosus, it goes down this weekend. Finally, Richard Hitchinson gets an opportunity to get that opponent, to get that victory on his resume that puts him in the conversations that he wants to be in. Guys, we know Richardson Hitchens made his move from Floyd Mayweather Promotions over to Matchroom a few years ago, and Eddie Hearn promised him to put him in position to where he is right now. And Eddie Hearn deserves to be, this is one of those situations where Eddie Hearn deserves to be celebrated for what he's done for this young man. Completely changing a whole lot for this man, getting him an opportunity to not only on the back end of a very lackluster performance against Gustavo Lemos, so a lot of people thought he lost that fight, but immediately getting him into a situation to get the winner between Subriel Matias and Liam Paro, and Hitchison able to capitalize off this situation and beat Liam Paro as far as capitalizing off Liam Paro beating Subriel Matias. We know that Richardson Hitchens deals with the rehydration clause in a public way. He communicates to the boxing space openly about how disadvantaged that rehydration clause is for him, how he's not comfortable fighting with that rehydration clause. I think there's an argument to be made that the reason he hasn't fought Subriel Matias, he's admitted, is because of that rehydration clause. So naturally, Richard Hitchenson's been chasing unifications and opportunities to get out of that rehydration clause. He tried to chase down Teofimo, make it happen, but Teofimo went ahead and fought Arnold Barbosa instead. So what has he done? Eddie Hearn's done the next best thing, and he's brought up a fighter from 135 pounds in George Kambosos, who has a country following him, who has a following, even though I think there's an argument to be made that George Kambosos has probably lost his last 4 fights as a professional boxer. There's an argument to be made that he definitely lost against Devin Haney twice, and he looked like he lost against Maxie Hughes, and he did get stopped by Vasily Lomachenko, right? So this guy, without a doubt, is not a favorite going into this fight. But a name regardless, somebody who's fought Teofimo Lopez and beat Teofimo Lopez and became a unified, or some people might want to say an undisputed champion at 135, somebody who shared the ring with a Vasily Lomachenko. He has that resume. And Richard Hitchinson gets an opportunity to go ahead and put George Kambosos on his resume, which puts him in the conversation of fighting bigger fights. Yesterday's price would not be today's price on the back end of beating a George Kambosos. But we're also seeing Richard Hitchinson tap into his marketing personality phase, right? Where he's very vocal in the cameras. He talks heavy, sells himself. He's got that New York, Brooklyn energy, very similar to, let's say, an Edgar Berlanga, and the way that Edgar Berlanga delivers his brand and what he brings to the space. Richard Hitchinson is trying to tap into that. I guess a question I would have for this fight is, would Richardson Hitchens be able to dial in and actually tap into the energy of taking George Kambosos serious enough to making the victory the most important thing on his list? Performance is important. You know, you don't want to be a boring fighter, but making sure you stay true to yourself and what brought you to the big show is going to be a very important thing for Richardson Hitchens. Because as George Kambosos has proven in the past when he fought against Teofimo Lopez, if you're not dialed all the way in, if you're not focused, if you sleep on his ability to give you an upset, there's a very good chance he can do it. He's shown he can do that in the past, and an overconfident Richardson Hitchens, I fear, he can get upsetted by George Kambosos, which would be crazy. I'm still picking Richardson Hitchens to win this fight. I think he brings those intangibles. I think his boxing IQ and the acumen he brings to the space makes him a very difficult fight for George Kambosos. I think George Kambosos should be the smaller guy in the ring, even though seeing them standing in front of each other, George Kambosos has filled out pretty well for the 140-pound weight class division. But still, I expect Hitchens to be the bigger guy. The question is going to be, is the weight cut going to be on point for Richardson Hitchens? Is the weight cut going to be where it's supposed to be for him because he has that rehydration clause? Is he going to be able to be as strong as he was when he fought against Liam Paro? Has he continued with the nutritionist? Will he be able to be all the way dialed in and 100% the person he needs to be in order to dominate the way he's calling out that he's going to dominate against George Kambosos? On the back end of this fight, Richard Hitchens is either going to get a unification fight and completely eliminate the idea of that rehydration clause, or I see Richard Hitchens honestly entertaining probably moving forward to 147 pounds if he has to continue to just defend that IBF belt on the strength of the IBF belt alone, of that rehydration clause. But this is his freebie. This is his shot, right? This is his shot. Salute to my co-host, Ray Davis, in the building. Ray Davis.
Oh.
What's good with you, boss?
Chilling, man. Chilling.
Yeah. Just building on this actual Hitchens Cambosus fight.
Yeah, I heard.
And, you know, we were talking about it a little bit yesterday. You know, when you're talking about how he looked sunken in his face a little bit, I was like, damn, you know, I didn't really think about that. You know, this weight cut has to be the right weight cut. He has to do it the right way over and over and over again. You know, you can go from one good weight cut to another weight cut that's a bad weight cut. And on a bad night, on a bad weight cut for Richard Hitchens, is he just as much of a threat as he is that he needs to be to a George Kambosos? Can George Kambosos take advantage of that version of a Hitchens?
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you at on it?
Yeah, man, 100%. Like, when I seen him face to face, man, I was like, he ain't even in his he's just in his training, you know what I mean, weight right now. He's not even in the weight where he needs to be on the scales.
Mm-hmm.
He already looked, you know what I mean, like frail as you got older. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. So I'm like, bro, Cambosus is definitely always a threat to any boxer. I think a lot of people sleep on how fast Cambosus hand speed is, and they sleep on his courage to stay in front of you.
Right.
And Cambosus is also his most dangerous asset that Cambosus has is he smothers your offense. Which a lot of fighters are starting to do. You're starting to see a lot of fighters have tough times with people that smother their offense because they're not used to having somebody right in front of them and constantly punching through the shots as they're throwing and just being combative. When you have fighters like that, it makes it a very tough fight. We already seen Richard Hitchens. I almost said what you said earlier, like 2 seconds ago. Fight the gentleman, something, whatever the French, the Irish guy name, right? And then we seen him also fight Limos. And he didn't look good at all. Didn't look good. Didn't look like he went in there and handled business like he was supposed to. And
but can Gustavo Limos deliver? I mean, excuse me. Can George Kambosos deliver the pressure style fighting that Limos did? Limos came with that Argentinian. You know how they bring it. It's a unique thing that they bring. You think about Marcos Maidana. You think about Brian Castano. You think about those fighters that come from that region, and they all have that common approach to being a pressure fighter, coming forward, high guard, nonstop pressure, attacking the body, cutting the ring off very well. Does George Kambosos have the power? Will that power translate at 140 to be something that Richard Hitchens can't refuse very early?
That's what I was going to say. It depends on, it's not so much of the hand speed. It's the power that he can deliver to slow down Richard Hitchens. Richard Hitchens is one-dimensional. Great fighter, but one-dimensional. A lot of people miss it. He moves straight back. He punches off the back foot. He doesn't use a lot of lateral movement. He just uses his range to try to pinpoint you and land his target. As he's doing so, I think what we do is we look at Cambosus on the other end of that, and Cambosus is a person that welcomes those type of things because Cambosus his weakness is going to his left, right? He likes to come over the top with the right. He likes to try to create some type of, like I said, lack of distance because if he gets inside, just like a Limos, right? Just like a Gustavo Limos, he gets inside, he starts pressuring, he starts pushing the envelope a little bit. Is he going to get hit? Absolutely, and I think that's where he calls himself the emperor or the whatever he calls him, right? Because he's not afraid to get hit. He's like, I can take your punches. It's not about taking your punches. It's about how many times can you hit me? Because while you're trying to punch me, I'm capitalizing on my pressure. And I think that's how he got Tio up out of there. That's how he became 21-0 and a champion because of that style of boxing. And I mean, who was it against? Obviously, a couple European fighters, some Asian fighters, and some lackluster fighters that we don't know of. But just because we don't know them doesn't mean that these guys wouldn't serve the test of time over here. But he did his thing and put himself in that position there for the IBF made a difference. Yes, he met some challenges. Bill Haney is a great game planner. He sees the weaknesses and the flaws, so he's able to capitalize on things. So I did not only once, but he did it twice. Loma obviously doubled down on that. Even Maxie Hughes, giving him the fight that he did was a close fight. In my opinion, I think Maxie Hughes was robbed. But what did we have in that fight? We had George Kambosos in Maxie Hughes' face all night long, and that made a huge difference. So don't sleep on George. I think once he gets going, and he probably hits harder than we think, especially moving up. Don't be surprised if he puts Hitchens lights out or give him more work than he's expecting and makes it more challenging of a fight. He can do so. And unfortunately, Hitchens is, like I said, he's just shrunken down. it's a concern of mine. But we'll see, Clay.
Yeah, I have a hard time wrapping it around my mind that George Cambosos could actually be anywhere close to the same size as Hitchens in this fight in real time. Like, I just think Hitchens is a naturally bigger guy. He has a big frame on him, and I think the ability for this weight cut to go down smooth is gonna play a big difference. It's something I'm gonna be looking at. I'll be looking at the weigh-ins to see how he looks at the weigh-ins. Did he keep that nutritionist there? If the nutritionist is still there and he's cutting the weight in a way to where the way he's looking out, like if Hitchens is walking around, let's say 5 pounds off weight right now from what you saw him, is that as bad as him having to cut 10 to 15 pounds? You know what I'm trying to say? Like if he's just 5 pounds off right now, what you're seeing is him being right on point to where he needs to be. So when he hits that scale, he's able to not only hit that 140, but also maintain that 10-pound rehydration clause the next morning and gain that weight back in a very healthy way to fight Cambosus that evening. Will he be able to get that energy back? Will he be able to keep that strength? Will he be able to, get that strength and also keep that athleticism to take advantage of a George Cambosus, who I agree with you is going to want this to be a mid-range fight? He's not going to want to fight this fight in a distance. He's going to want this to be a mid-range fight. He's going to have to take chances and risk, and he's going to have to come in. Can Hitchens be dialed in enough to take advantage of letting a George Cambosus be over offensive and walking him into shots rather than being, and here comes the next part, because Hitchens, all of a sudden, when you hear him talking in these press conferences, now he may just be selling us the show, but he says he's going to stop Cambosus, right? He plans on taking advantage. He feels like he's fighting against a smaller fighter. He wants to take advantage of George Cambosus and become this exciting fighter. I'm starting to get little feelings, little moments of Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia, just a little bit, where Devin was kind of talking about stopping Ryan and Bill was talking about killing Ryan, and they saw that as an opportunity to take advantage of this dude who hasn't shown the evolution in boxing, who's become more of a YouTube personality than the actual boxer to the boxing space. Did they drink the Kool-Aid and believe that they were going to take advantage of this guy, that this guy was once something way more of a competitive opponent than what he is today? Because Richard Hitchens feels like, yeah, this dude came up for 135 to fight me. He doesn't know how big I can get on the night. He's a small guy. If he tries to get over offensive with me, I'm going to knock him out. Is that where Hitchens' mind is? And if his mind truly is there, is that a good or a bad thing for somebody who you call a one-dimensional fighter?
Again, exactly what you just said. Very bad thing, because Richard Hitchens, like you just said, he has to make that 10-pound rehydration in the morning, right? The opposite end of that, Cambosus got to come up. He's coming up from a division, so he's not going to struggle to make weight. He's not going to struggle none of that. He's going to come up in there. He's going to be who he is. He's going to make that 10-pound rehydration clause. He's going to get in there, Richard Hitchens, and he's going to feel comfortable. Richard Hitchens is the one that's going to be more coming in there sweat worthy, trying to make sure he ain't hit this mark and he can't go over this tally. Yes. And when I say one-dimensional play, I don't mean that. I'm talking about his footwork. Like, you can look at a boxer and tell him how they move, by the way. Richard Hitchens has a good chance of stopping him. I mean, any fighter can stop any fighter. I think he has enough pop in his jab. But Richard Hitchens is more of a boxer. I don't want to say outside his element, because he's a star, but he's not a big enough star in the business where he puts himself in that position where he can make that, move the room. Like he doesn't move, the ground he walks on doesn't turn gold or whatever the case may be, but that's how he perceives himself. And he has every right to, he's a champion, he earned it. But I think a lot of people have seen a lot of flaws in him, and I think I think this is, like I said, something you take lightly. You're taking this guy lightly because he's Australian, and your counterpart beat him in a similar style that you fight. Jab all day, beat him and shut him out 24 zip. So you think you can go in there and do the same thing. People call it deja vu, man. Either they're gonna live by that sword and die by that sword, or they're gonna change things up and they're gonna come in there and knowing what you're trying to do, and they're gonna make their adjustments. So we'll see.
Well, if he is truly one-dimensional, him making an adjustment is going to be dangerous for him, in my opinion, because it'll be like changing your game in the ninth inning. But if he truly has wrinkles in his game, and I think that's what we're going to see, Richardson Hitchens is going to get an opportunity to show the boxing space the wrinkles in his game, to show that, yeah, when I'm in danger, I fight a certain way. You know, when I'm fighting Gustavo Lemos, who's really trying to take my head off, and I know my chin ain't all the way there because I've had a bad weight cut and I'm depleted. I'm not that strong of a fighter. I can still win fights because I know how to fight defensively, move around, and box you, hit and not get hit. But also when I'm in there with the right opponent that doesn't present the same danger that a Gustavo Lemos does, I have another gear that I can hit. And when I hit that gear, it translates into must-see boxing. This is an opportunity for him to kickstart his market value and put himself in a position to be must-see boxing and attract the Turki Alalshikh or attract other promotional companies that want to put him in fights. You know, where does Hitchens go after this off the right performance? Stopping Cambosus or just dominating and beating him terribly for 12 rounds. Where does Hitchens go from here?
Jason Teal. I mean, where else would he go? The other side of the street is at Showtime. I mean PBC, excuse me. It's at PBC. So most likely that side over there is going to be fighting for the unification. So you only have one other option. That's Teofimo Lopez, or I hate to say this, another former Devin Haney opponent. Because I think Catterwall kind of took himself out the mix a little bit. So it would be only one other person that they will feel, I think, boxing, the team of Richard Hitchens will feel that will be deserving of a fight, and that will probably be none other than Regis Prograde, who's a former champion and a lifetime 140-pounder, whose task is difficult. At the same time, you know what I mean, he's a name, and it'll be sad to see that. I mean, I can look into the rankings and see where you would take it. But I just think Sabrill's already moving this other way. You're not going to fight. You're not going to rematch Liam Paro. So, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe an Elvis Rodriguez or Jermaine Ortiz. That'd be a dangerous point. That'd be a fight for the ages. I think Jermaine Ortiz, but
I think with Hitchens, his next fight has to be unification, or it's time to consider leaving
or moving up. Lately, that's what I was going with it. Like I think he's going to try to get one more at the division. Hopefully unification, or he's moving up.
Yeah, if he gets unification, he's on that Duran Ennis time to me, where it's like, you give me unification after this, I'm staying. I don't get unification, I'm entertaining moving up. It doesn't make sense to sit there and continue to hurt your body with the rehydration clause that you've openly been complaining about since before you even had the IBF title. You know, at some point it's going to catch up with him if he doesn't address it. Right?
I mean, I guess I just don't. I don't know, man. It's a lot of things to overcome for Richard Hitchens. I believe more than meets the eye. And us as boxing fans, we don't look into it like that. We look into it as, he's the champ. You know what I mean? We see Cambosos get whipped on so many times, blah, blah, blah. It's a hard pill to swallow. But when you take into account how he looked yesterday and how he could look, because I think that's how he will look on the second weigh-in. I mean, that's his first 10-pound rehydration, what he looks like yesterday. Now you got to try to put that weight back on. Cambosos is already going to be there. He's probably already going to wait. You know what I mean? He's a 150-pound guy. Well, you got Hitchens who's like a 160-pound, 65-pound guy. Easy. Maybe even heavier. So, yeah. It's going to be tough, man. We're going to see, Clay. Yeah. I think he'll go legacy. If he can't get a championship fight, I think he'll stay one more for 140. He'll go legacy. That's why I put Regis in the picture. And if not, he'll move up, maybe fight another fighter at 147.
Yeah. We'll see what it is. This is an opportunity, this is a big opportunity for him to fight George Kambosos. I know, me personally, I wasn't that excited about the fight in the beginning, but understanding the way Eddie Hearn was moving him, I understood the value that the fight had for Hitchens. If you're trying to bolster up his market value, a fight like this makes sense. So we'll see what he does. Also on that same card, we've got Andy Cruz, who's also going to be fighting against Hironi Mishiro. Yeah. What do you think about this fight? Have you looked at this fight at all?
I don't even know who Hiromu Shiro is.
I've been looking him up. I've seen him box. Seen like 1 or 2 fights of his.
Yeah.
I think it's a fight tailor made for Andy Cruz to clean up and get himself into the title fights. I think they want to fast track Andy into a title situation, especially now when you got Abdullah Mason who's in the conversation to get in the title and a title shot. They want to get Andy Cruz in there. They want to get opponents for the fighters who are willing to fight in the lightweight division, right? So they want to, Shakur Stevenson and, I mean, whoever the champion is going to be at the WBO now that Keyshawn Davis seems to be clearly heading in a different direction from 135. But I think they're trying to fast forward him. Andy Hiroshino looks like a boxer, a normal boxer, decent boxing, but ultimately I think a finesser. I think Andy Cruz can be confident in this fight and should be able to let his hands go and go for the stoppage. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to be as paranoid as he was when he's fighting against a Salcido or when he fought against Antonio Moran. Those fights that kind of like where he got clipped a little bit and he became very reserved. I think if you want to see Andy Cruz really let his hands go and really carry out and push that Bozy and his program forward, it seems like this fighter, there should be no excuses that Andy Cruz should be able to make a statement in this fight against somebody like this. What do you think?
Right. But this gentleman just fought. I think I'm trying to remember if I've seen him on an Inouye card or one of the other cards, like what's the other dude thing? The Australian guy that fights over there all the time.
Australian?
Yeah.
I know you're talking about the guy who.
I don't know if it was his card. Yeah, I did. I think he fought on like one of those cards before. And just to say that, I'm about to look him up. He's an experienced fighter. He has the 1L, but he's fought. Yeah, I'm trying to see where it was. It was definitely a fight where I seen him against another Japanese fighter. And I'm gonna say it was the Inouye card. I'm gonna check this one right here, and Jordan, yeah. So anyway, regardless, Clay, I seen this guy in the ring prior to this matchup. I only seen it one time. He's a high rate fighter. Like he does have a similar like that style that we see come from over there, like that bouncing around. You know what I mean? Living off the jab, putting their looking to be outside, in and out type fighter. You know what I mean? Everybody believes they're Rocky. But he does bounce around a lot, and he can cause some problems for Andy. Andy being 5-0, I think Andy has a little bit better pedigree because of his the way he fights.
He has a way better pedigree, I think he has a way better
because of his amateur career. But I think if this gentleman and Andy tangle or squabble as they call it today, right? I think this could be anything can happen, right? It's boxing, and I think this guy has a laser of a right hand, if I'm not mistaken. I think he dropped dude that I seen him fight, and I'm going to have to go back and look. Like I said, I'm going to have to go back and look. I believe this is the guy. I think it was the same fight that Jin Sasaki was on when he fought the other guy with Saraki or something like that. For the same guy.
Andy Hiroshima.
Yeah. So maybe. But I'm just telling you, I seen this dude, and he has his Andy's gonna have some feelings. He needs to he needs to build the fight up. He needs to get some rounds in, which he always does. But he needs a stoppage, Clay. I think at the end of the day, what Andy really needs is a stoppage. And I think this is the best opportunity for him to do so. This is the way he's going to have to get it done. He has to make a statement. The way he makes a stoppage, the way he takes the first couple of rounds away from this gentleman, excuse me, he takes the rounds away, he has to beat him. And after he beats him, he needs to stop it. And maybe with a KO. I'm not talking about killing the guy or anything like that, but definitely making a statement. And this is his opportunity, like you just mentioned. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think that this is a fight tailor-made for I think Eddie Hearn's been trying to make an argument for a minute right now for Andy Cruz to get involved in some title contentions, and he's had to match make this one a little bit. And they've challenged Andy enough. They've given him some opponents that have given Andy some pushback. and what made Andy uncomfortable to where what they want to see Andy doing, Andy's not willing to do it because of the level of imminent danger that's in the ring with him. I think this fighter, from Eddie Hearn's point of view, probably checks the boxes a little bit and puts Andy Cruz in a way to be able to give that kind of performance that's going to wow the crowd and allow him the permission to start openly calling out certain fights in that division, whether it be title eliminators or actual title shots, and make it make sense, because you got to make sense out of his record, right? His record of, like, what is it, four or five fights? I don't know how many fights. Five fights. It's hard to take him out of the prospect conversation, even though they love to say, nah, but it's still hard. It's 5 fights. And he hasn't had a standout performance against anybody enough to put him in the conversation of fighting a Shakur, or even fighting dare I say right now, Abdullah Mason, with what he's earned as far as, you know what I mean, the reputation he's earning in the game. He needs a performance. And he, like you said, stoppage level, I'll say. Because even if he doesn't stop him, it needs to be you beat the brakes off this dude. 12 rounds, like crazy. Like, this dude just didn't get stopped off the grace of God. Like, this guy gets respect because, like, damn, you got a chin because you was getting clipped so much. We got to give you some respect for the way you was getting punched on. But Andy Cruz needs to walk away with the reputation that deems him getting involved in some big fights at 135. I think that's what this fight's going to be.
Right. And all right, now I kind of remember. I think it was and I didn't look it up. I can't find it, but I think it was a Filipino fighter card he fought on, if I'm not mistaken, on the zone already. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's exactly what you hit. You hit the nail on the head, man. This is a tailor-made fight. They moving them in this direction to get the impressive victory, and we'll see how that goes down.
Yeah, Bubs. At a minimum, Shakur's at least become a champion in other division and is a champion right now at 135. Stop comparing him with Andy Cruz. Stop it, bro. You're doing a lot.
Oh my God! No, you're gonna put him. You're gonna put Shakur in every matchup possible.
Right. He's saying, what did Shakur do? Shakur at least is a WBC champion and is a multiple weight champion. Andy Cruz has done nothing. He has to do something. He has to do something special in order for a 5-0 fighter who's getting ready to be 6-0 to be in the conversation of fighting for a belt.
Right.
And he's older. He's damn near 30. He needs to do something. You know what I'm saying? He needs to make something happen for himself.
Exactly.
It is what it is. I'm gonna go ahead and put the link out there. If anybody wants to hit the link and come up. Talked about a couple things already. Ray, do you think you'll hold down for a second?
Yeah. Those are some of the conversations, by the way, if you don't mind. Because I know I did miss some earlier conversations.
Okay, no.
We can talk about Bud. You know what I mean? Or the no running clause, which is crazy.
Right. I talk about all that. We can talk about that. Matter of fact, you can start talking about it, and as soon as I get back,
yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. I mean, the takes on that is crazy. I think you're taking away boxing at its best. I get it that Devin didn't look super impressive in the way he fought, and the gentleman that got in the ring that had that looked to make it to the next fight was something that they chose to do, and he won the fight. It's Tom and Jerry when a guy can't hit someone, it can't cut off the ring. And I'm not defending Devin's way of fighting. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you can't sit there and think that you're going to be able to defeat somebody just by sitting there trying to stalk them and swinging bolos. Devin went in there with the intentions of not using the jab, such as Robert Garcia thought Devin would. He thought he was going to come in there, use that jab, stand in front of Ramirez, and which he didn't. That's boxing. That's hit and not get hit. That was Floyd's method. If you look at all the videos that Floyd was teaching Devin, that's one of the things he explained. Being in that ring, being able to circle around. I just froze up. But being able to circle around the ring, stay in the middle, be able to use your defense and counter shots as they come in, whether you're using a jab or whether you're punching through it. Using punches as the person gets in there, shouldering off shots, blocking shots, parrying shots. Unfortunately, it is what it is. You know what I mean? He got hit with some crazy shots. A guy on Oscarine, man. When he got hit with those shots, you think he didn't have no PTSD? Absolutely he did. Of course he did. And who wouldn't? You know what I mean? Who wouldn't want to take on a puncher and think like, yo, it's time for me to, you know, step it up and get out the way. Now, at the same time, where I agree with Turkey or all the people that believe that Devin should afford another fight is this is the best time to challenge yourself and test yourself with punches to the, you know what I mean, to the body and to the chin. Prove that you're not chinny. Prove that you're willing to get back in that ring and handle yourself. Plus, we got to remember, now back to where we were. A man gets up and from 6 Oscarine-style punches, stands up, still continues to fight, still literally made it a fight where it could have went either way. And it is what it is, but it's cool. All right, Bubs, let's see what you're talking about. Notice how they protect Shakur. Anyone that can challenge them, challenges them, they make excuses. Mason wasn't ready last week. Now Keyshawn moved up. Now he's ready. So how they slow things down or speed up? Well, anyway, that don't make no sense. Who's protecting Shakur? Your fans, us? Be specific. Because I don't understand what you're trying to say, Bubs. Because I don't think no one's protecting Shakur. I think what your eyes is tuned into one fighter, and you don't look at certain. Yeah, exactly. I think you don't look at boxing. I think you look at only one thing: knockouts. I don't think you realize that your fighter was in the ring and could not beat a boxer. Looked terrible against a boxer that smothered his shots, got knocked back 20 shots. And guess what? Not to mention, Tank ran from Ryan the whole first 3 rounds. He ran from Rolly the whole first 4 rounds. So, I mean, if we're going to really talk about people running and how they fight, Gervonta did that. So, what are you talking about? Shakur, you talking about Shakur running, right, as well? What are you talking about, man? I'm not understanding because your favorite fighter's Tank. So everything you talk about is Shakur versus this guy, Shakur versus that guy. I'm just trying to figure it out, dude. I'm just trying to come up. I'm not understanding. Vince, Andy Cruz. Why would Shakur fight Andy Cruz is the problem. Like, that's what we're getting at. Why? Because he's ranked high? I mean, he can fight him, but why? He's looking to unify. Ask your boy to fight him first. That's what you always want to see Shakur fight Keyshawn. You want to see him fight Andy Cruz now, who's not even a champion. The kid wants to unify. He's begging to unify. He's been begging to unify for a year and a half. He's fighting a tough opponent right now. What more do you want from him? When is Tank going to fight Andy Cruz? Why didn't Tank fight Floyd Schofield? He was number 1 in his division. What has Shakur done at 130? Oh my God. What has he done at 135? It's a great question. Who wants to fight him at 135? Okay. You got enough of my attention. Anybody else want to elaborate? Because this guy is literally on his knees right now, bro. Like, I can't, bro. Like, you so live it up for other fighters, bro. You forget that you hate on other fighters and stuff like that. Hold on, y'all. All right, my bad. My son had to say something. He's taking off and stuff. But check it. There's no way, bro. Listen, there's no way I would think that and I'm back on task, so there's no way I think that the running thing is going to change in boxing. I think now we have to look at what I don't want to block him, man. Listen, he's entitled to his thoughts. I just think he's trying to rile me up. It ain't happening. I'm back on the Devin Haney run rule, right? I think that's a little crazy. I think we're going to see boxers do what they do when they get in the ring and they have to face adversity and at any point of boxing. Once he does, we'll see a better Devin Haney. Maybe this is the guy who he is. Maybe he's shell-shocked and he's going to be this boxer from now on. It's not like it's a rule. Like, where's the rule that says that you can't fight, you know what I mean, going backwards or moving laterally? Where's the rule that says that If you can't cut off the ring, it's my. What's up, ETB? You know what I mean? Where's the rule that says that Devin has to stand there and let somebody punch on him or any other fighter? Where's the rule? The rule says boxing. Boxing is hitting and not get hit. In the story. So I'm not protecting Devin. I'm not protecting fighters like Shakur. And like I said, we just seen Gervonta do it in 2 fights where he moved away from all his fighters. He ran around the ring and didn't throw any punches. And you know what I mean? Unfortunately, fortunately for Tank, unfortunately for the opponent, they ended in knockouts. But my point is, we don't know what's going to happen. They're called setting traps. That's what you do. You're setting traps. And when you're looking to set a trap, you're going to move. You're going to make that guy stalk you. When you got hit, when Ramirez got hit with those shots, guess what happened? He knew what was coming his way, so he was hesitant to move forward enough to try to cut off the ring against Devin Haney. Yeah, he took some wild punches, but he did not go in there without risk, right? He didn't go in there thinking that he's going to get clean shots off on Devin and make Devin stand in the corner or sit on the ropes and get those shots. No, he went in there with the intentions of, this guy's going to try to jab me and I'm going to hit him with the overhand left and he's going to go down with this check hook, one or the other. So that's what he was. I mean, overhand right, or he's going to go down with this check hook. That was Ramirez's plan, and Ramirez had a bad game plan. Okay, the fight looked boring, the fight looked terrible, but guess what? At the end of the day, it's boxing, and you cannot understand if it wasn't trapped. Thank you, visionary. If it wasn't trapped set by Devin, guess what? Why did he get hit? Why did Ramirez get hit with combos, hard punches every time he got in there, and Devin hit him and moved out the way? You know what I mean? It is what it is. These people need to stop, and I'm very upset with the boxing fans that want to see Rock'em Sock'em, and they want to see these guys in the ring with people getting brain damage and ending their careers. It's just going to change boxing again, and unfortunately, styles make fights, and we're going to lose a style based on what we just seen because people are upset because Devin ran. Okay, I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with me. I can't pull anybody up. I would drop the link. But Clay has the access to doing that. As far as that goes, it is what it is. But anything else you want to talk about? I mean, it is what it is, Mr. Big Prey. You know what I mean? Exactly what it is. But it's sad. It's sadness, bro. At the end of the day, it's sadness. We're looking at a whole different sport with Rock'em Sock'em guys. Like I said, who wants to go out here and no disrespect to Tommy Hitman Hearns, not Tommy Hitman Hill, by the way, who want to go out here and be, you know what I mean, talking like that and not being able to get their words together. Look at Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe can barely speak. Like, these guys don't want to walk around as vegetables when they get to a certain age in their careers. They're boxers. They get punched on. You know what I mean? They don't want to be like that. Yeah, they can think, but it takes them 20 seconds to get that thought out. And that's crazy. Nobody wants that. And it is what it is, man. It's just the sadness. It's the sadness. And thank you, Too Rich. They are. They're making it way too big, much bigger than what it is. It's so big that Turki Alalshikh put out that tweet saying that he don't want to see Tom and Jerry. Like, listen, don't chase him. At the end of am I wrong, y'all? It's 2 fighters in that ring. If I can't cut off the ring, what do I do to make this guy engage in a fight with me? I stay there. I don't got to move. I ain't got to chase him and stalk him. Make him come to me. And tell Pillowfist worry about the racists. What? Why are y'all talking about Tank? This Tank that. Tell Devin. So Devin's pillow-fisted? Name one person that walked through Devin's punches. Boxing expert. Name one. I'm just saying, his jabs and everything. Name one that walked through there and got successful. Ryan didn't walk through. Devin went in there with a different approach. He went in there to try to wipe Ryan's face off. We seen that in the fight. So it is what it is, big homie. Salute, everybody. Salute to the panel.
What's up, Clay? What's up, Ray?
Peace,
What's
peace,
going on?
peace.
Salute, brethren. Salute, brethren.
What's going on?
Hey, Ray, man. They coming at you, Ray.
I
You
don't
said a
care.
lot
He
of good
can
things.
try.
I disagree with a couple of things though. But one thing, particularly, I don't think you can. I understand the method of you saying about moving around the ring, but I
Okay.
didn't see Devin in the Ramirez, like how you said Tank versus Ryan and Tank versus Lamont Roach. I didn't see, like, we know Tank to set traps and fights. He did the same thing against Rolly. He did the same thing against
Hmm.
Ryan. He did the same thing against Pitbull Cruz with one hand. I didn't see Devin trying to set up any traps. I just seen a lot of movement without really firing back if he didn't know that he was possibly about to get hit, get Ramirez up off of him, and constantly just on his bike. Shakur is a little bit different because I do believe Shakur had a bad performance against Santos, but Shakur is a boxer who, honestly, he stands in the pocket like Abdullah Mason just did and just kind of do the matrix in front of you, make you miss and not get hit. He got great defense. I didn't see Devin setting any traps. I just seen a lot of running. Me
Okay.
personally,
Okay. To rebuttal
in
that.
that particular fight.
Yeah. To rebuttal that, right? What did Ramirez do to put himself in position to get set up? I mean, you got to remember, there's a smart boxer on the other end not to get set up with those shots. Once he realized what was coming back his way, you see Ramirez cautiously moving forward. You seen that. Ramirez in that fight was getting clipped with combos, hard punches. You've never seen Devin throw hard punches in combinations more than like 5 shots at a time in a fight. I don't think since he was 2018, 2019. So in that fight, and I think I'm going to even go one more and say it was Jojo Diaz. I think it was the last time he stood there and he threw hard punches back and forth. So that fight, he actually was sitting there waiting. I mean, he moved around when he got cut off. What did he do? He hit him with uppercuts. He hit him with hooks. He hit him with overhands. He hit him with the body shots, like combos, complete combos. He didn't even utilize the jab to measure him up. Think about that. Devin never measured up. He just waited for him to come in. He was luring him in. I didn't even see that, until I rewatched the fight, and I even spoke to Clay about it. And Clay was like, "Nah, man, that he was on the back foot, right? That was just a bad performance." I was like, "You're right. It was. It looks bad. Of course, we're going to say it, but look at the end of the day, right? We always say Devin looks bad everything he does. So Devin could have went in there and knocked dude out. You know what they would have said? Oh, he beat up another 30-year-old fighter. He knocked out Ramirez. Ramirez
No,
was
not me. I wouldn't have said that because he
not
boxed
you. I said
beautifully
they.
against
I know. I
Regis
got you.
Prograis.
But what
That
I'm
was his
saying
best
is they would
performance
have said it.
ever.
But they said it about Regis Prograis. They literally
Oh
said,
man,
"Oh, he's
that
not the
Devin
fighter we
fought the
thought he
perfect
was."
fight that fight. I'm not even the biggest Devin Haney fan. He fought the perfect
Yeah,
fight that night. He washed Regis 12-0. If anybody hated on that fight, they just like
yeah, but they do though, right? They always say how Regis was old. He's aged out. He picked the older fighter. They continue to use every single thing against Devin the Dream Haney. Any fight he has. When he was in there with Loma, okay, Loma had a successful 9th, 11th, and 12th round. I'm sorry, 11th round, 8th, 9th, 11th. I'm sorry, 8th, 9th, 11th. Yes. The 10th round, which so everybody thought that was a great round. Devin was getting, he was avoiding every shot. You go back and slow that down. He didn't even get clipped in that round. That's the one that everybody thought the judge robbed Loma. Yo, he never landed a shot on Dev. Dev was in the pocket, like you just said, slipping and dipping on Loma shots, parrying shots, catching shots, countering. If you watch that fight, you'll be like, damn, yo, I didn't even notice that. Rewatch that round. As far as everybody else,
I disagree with that one, Ray. I had that
okay,
fight as
you
a
can,
draw.
you
As a
can,
draw. I'm
entitled
not
to.
gonna lie. I had
But
that fight as a draw.
okay,
Let me get 30 seconds real quick about this. Just 30 seconds.
yeah, go for it.
And so, real quick, one thing about Devin is, Devin and Bill, they came in with that specific plan to do what they did against Ramirez. And if you watch Ramirez fall, he fought the exact same way his previous fight that he fought before. Devin deliberately, kept his distance and was getting through that fight. This is my opinion, so everybody can have another opinion, to get to the Ryan fight with unscathed. That's my opinion. Because, like the brother said last time, Regis, he fought a very great fight before that. But when he fought Ryan, he fucked up. He played into everything that we played into with Ryan. Him being crazy, him being stupid, him baiting getting into rushing him and caught a left hook in the first round, you know, with this boy on Austrian. So my thing is like, hey, it's two things. It's like the problem with that fight is that he deliberately didn't do nothing. It has historic CompuBox lows for punches thrown, punches landed, etc. So it was a trash fight. People have an
Yep.
opinion, can have the right to say that was a trash fight because we know
Right.
Devin fights better than that. So that's my whole particular point with that whole fight. And the whole thing was Bill and Devin had a plan. They're like, look, we handle our business. Y'all gonna complain about this shit until I get to Ryan and handle my business. That's my opinion on that particular thing. Because the whole thing is that Devin been having haters all the way through, even with the Loma fight. I challenge anybody to go back and look at that fight. And I'm telling you, the one thing that Devin did that was phenomenal in that fight is he took away Loma's greatest gift, and that was that footwork. When Loma pivoted, he pivoted. He danced with that boy the whole time. It was a very close fight. I thought Devin won. Other people had Loma fight. Loma won. It was a close fight. He won. But one thing about it at the end of the day, and I complete right here, is everybody got hate on Haney for whatever, on however he fight. Bill and Devin, they don't give a fuck no more. But what they also got to do is they have to be very careful about what they do and how they perform inside the ring for their future earnings. Nobody's gonna want to watch that trash. And so,
Yep.
then I end like this. I'll end with this. I'm not gonna say Devin has PTSD just on how good he executed staying away from Ramirez, who fought the same exact way against Barbosa. Because if he would have let his hands go or threw some jabs, them flinching and all that flinching and shit he did defensively, I see Mayweather do that all the time. The only difference is Mayweather was countering people and hitting people back with the sweet
Mhm.
science when you're flinching like that.
Absolutely.
When you're flinching like that and then you're fucking running around the ring, you leave yourself action at does he have PTSD? But you know what? We're gonna find out when he fight his next opponent. And with that said, I'm complete.
Yep.
Oh, can I tap in real
Oh,
quick? Let me
he
just tap in.
cooked real quick.
Let me just tap in and say this. I agree with Blaze pound for pound's complete breakdown of that. I thought it was a brilliant breakdown because what he basically said was, and you know, I've been trying to communicate this, but Blaze just did it. I hope that description did the job. I appreciate Blaze for saying
You
that.
got to the point, Clay. Yes, absolutely. I've been dancing around the point, but that's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Devin Haney's last performance was not a performance that describes how he normally performs. He customized and did that performance based off of a game plan they had on how they were going to go into what they thought was going to be the Ryan Garcia fight. So they took the shot on the chin from the public scrutiny to say, we're going to give you this kind of fight. If this guy Jose Ramirez wants to push it, we'll give you a different fight. But if he doesn't push it, we're not going to push it. We're more concerned about walking away with this victory and securing this get back. What that turned into was people saying he was running around the ring. I think Turki Alalshikh putting out that statement is a legitimate statement. I don't feel like it was directed directly at Devin. I feel like it was directed at, if anything, probably more so William Skull and what William Skull did with Canelo Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? But it was just to let it be known that he doesn't want to be part of no Tom and Jerry gimmicky, narrative-driven nonsense. He's here to deliver competitive sports, people with heart, people who are trying to showcase why they're the best and who take the fans in consideration and can take their big paydays into consideration when delivering the performances that delivering. And like Blaze said, they have to take that into consideration. You cannot care about the fans. Devin and Bill can say F the fans. They screwed us over. They don't care about us. We're not worried about what they think. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the business side of boxing, to the money, to the way things are going to go into your pockets, you better be concerned with the product that you're putting out there. Because if they don't buy it, you're not going to make the money. You're not always going to have a Turki Alalshikh there who's willing to pay you no matter what. You got blessed with an opportunity to perform in Times Square without no audience there. People weren't able to boo you to death and do all the things that would have happened inside of a stadium. You know what I'm saying? So you got away with it. People are complaining about it. Let it be what it is. But what Turkey's talking about shouldn't affect Devin Haney, because normally Devin Haney's not a fighter who runs or who moves the way he did in that fight at Fatal Fury.
And Clay, I would just add this real quick with this, is that them guys, Bill and Devin does that, because it's my opinion, I could be wrong, so I can respect everybody's opinion. Bill and Devin did that knowing that they will be quickly have a turnaround for a riot fight. So they don't give a fuck about what you think about Ramirez. He's a nobody. It was a tune-up fight. He ran the whole time. He stayed fresh. What matters is him getting that Ryan fight and him feeling like he can beat his ass. That's why they was able to do that. That I hate the calculation. But what I said is this a miscalculation if there's a long layoff. Because all we gonna be talking about is this shit, and they gonna brand Devin for whatever he gonna brand at. And by the time he gets to a next fight, it ain't gonna be no buzz for it. That's the only thing they gotta be careful about how they do it. But at the same time, it's like after the Ryan situation and all that, Bill and Devin don't give a fuck about fans because they don't give him credit for nothing that he fucking does. You feel me?
Right.
So, but at the same time, if he's gonna be a prize fighter, he gonna have to show up and perform in that ring. So one thing I can respect about Devin, it seems like because Ramirez was a tune-up, but before that, he fought everybody good. There wasn't nobody they wasn't saying he was cherry picking shit. You feel me? And so it'd be like if he continues on that path, then he continues to have the balance of, being a great fighter, going down as being a great fighter, but also balancing getting money too, because they all come from that the money team tree of being prize fighters, not fighting at a high level competition, but also getting to that bag.
Yo, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, sir, coach.
Words are powerful. Now, Canelo put a jacket on Demetrius Andrade, and just hang with me for a second. He told him he was a horrible fighter, and that didn't go well for him. I think it hurt his career because at that particular time he put a jacket on him as a boring fighter. Nobody wanted to fight him because Canelo co-signed, said he was a horrible fighter, so he wasn't worth anything. Now, it's a content creator. He's going to remain nameless. He tried to put the jacket on William Skull. That didn't move the needle, so he put the jacket on Devin Haney. That moved the needle. You go back to the William Skull fight, challenge anybody, and I'm not lying. I have no dog in the hunt. William Skull took center of the ring, the very first round. He did not run from Canelo Alvarez. William Skull and Devin Haney's performance is night and day. William Skull took small steps. He controlled the distance. He managed the distance. He took center of the ring for about 70% of that fight. And he was able to hold Canelo off. When Canelo got close to him, he was able to shoot something hot and fast down there that bagged Canelo up. He got Canelo respect because Canelo's face was locked up. That's why he was not running in trying to cut that man off, because when he did, Skull hit him with combination and slid out on him and made him look like a fool when he tried to load up with them big shots. So Skull did not run, but that fool Sergio Mora painted a picture that Skull was running. Now let's flip the script. Let's say Skull is the A side. This is where commentary comes into play. Let's say Skull is the A side and Canelo is playing the role of Skull. They would say, "Oh, look at Skull. His footwork is so good. He's making Canelo look like an amateur. Canelo can't even catch him. He can't even cut the ring off. He's boxing masterfully. Look how he controlling the distance." That's what they do to people that they like. They flip their script, even though they're doing the same exact thing. They'll praise that person like they're doing something great. Canelo did not make any effort. I repeat, this man set a record, all-time low, 168 punches thrown in a 12-round fight. Nobody's talking about that. Not only that, this fool got paid $50 million to do that. Skull didn't get paid $50 million. But why anybody saying that, hey, Joe Frazier can cut the ring off? We seen Carlos Adames cut the ring off. We seen the guy that fought Caleb Plant, he cut the ring off. Why isn't there a holding rule? Why isn't there a posturing rule? Because guys will sit there and posture and look at each other, not do anything. That's even worse than running, because you have an opportunity to do something. Y'all just standing there looking at each other. Nobody's doing anything. So now we're going to put a shot clock on this thing. Hey, you got to throw a certain amount of punches, within a time frame. All this was just a narrative, to paint a narrative on black fighters and the drive a needle and the line of content creators' pocket, who shall remain nameless, because ever since he got money, like Eddie Murphy said, they should have never gave you jokers money. He been acting kind of funny. You get money, you start acting funny, and you start catering to a fan base, and we know what fan base that is, and they're trying to paint Devin out as this villain, and he's not. Ramirez had an obligation to cut that ring off. It's a simple thing you do. You cut the ring off, you put the man in the corner, and you let the hands go. Mayweather had great footwork. McDonald was able to cut that ring down and put Mayweather on the ropes and beat up on it. Joe Frazier did the same thing to Muhammad Ali. So I don't buy this crap to my no running room, stand there. No, cut the ring down, put the man in the ropes, put him in the corner, and let your hands go and beat up on him.
I agree with that too.
Great assessment, coach. And I think it just goes
Yeah,
back to the one thing that I always say, man. If we hold all of these boxers to the same standards inside the ring, things will be much easier. We do not. We pick and choose who we want to hold to certain standards, who's supposed to do this and who's supposed to do that. And then we get stuff like this.
hey yo, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I 100% agree with Coach Eddie because I definitely saw the Skull versus Canelo fight different than most of these people trying to paint it out to be. A bunch of times I saw Skull standing in the middle of the ring, daring Canelo to move forward, and when Canelo got there, he would throw a barrage of punches that would either send Canelo back or have Canelo blocking. And then when Canelo would swing, he would just move. Was he supposed to stand there and let Canelo hit him? And also, I think that if you look at the CompuBox numbers of that link that I had sent to Clay earlier, it listed like those recent fights that we had, and it was showing like through CompuBox the the landed punches or punches thrown combined by both fighters, and Devin Haney and Ramirez threw more punches than everybody else who fought that night. you know, Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. It was less punches combined thrown in that fight than Devin Haney versus Ramirez. Canelo versus William Skull. They even put Deontay Wilder versus Parker up there. Yeah, Joseph Parker up there, and they even had more punch output than that fight. You know, so I definitely think it's an agenda that's being pushed and everything. And also, we got to look at the fact that we got to look at the time frame when Turki Alalshikh put that message out there. He put that out there right when he was talking about the Canelo versus Bud fight. And I think he possibly could be trying to send a message to Bud, telling Bud that he's not interested in seeing a cat and mouse fight. You know, that he don't want to see Bud moving around a lot. He want to see Bud possibly stand in the middle and in front of Canelo and fight Canelo. And I think if Bud do that, it might not be smart for him to do. I think if he get hurt in that fight or anything like that, he definitely should use some lateral movement and start and get on his bicycle. You know, that's part of the sweet science, man. That's part of boxing. You know, cutting off the ring is also.
Yeah. Salute to Rich. How you doing, man?
I would just say,
Hey,
everybody, please keep in mind all three of those fights were see-through fights. So that was the problem with the fights, is they were all fighting for their next fight. So they were all holding their punches back. And like the coach say, I agree with him about Skull, but it is more about Canelo. And Canelo didn't engage because Canelo wanted to be fresh for the Bud fight. Because let's make it very clear, like the brother say, yeah, Bud gonna have to get on his bicycle if he get caught and all that, and he's gonna have to box. But I believe it's gonna be a real fight, and Bud's gonna give it to him. And so when you look at what was going on right there, it was like, yeah, Skull was boxing, and I agree. He had more engagement than Devin. But all of that, but Canelo, with his strategy of non-engagement, was the same similar shit with Devin on the opposite side. Is he's not going to engage if he don't have to be fresh for the Bud fight. So it's like that's what was so bogus about those three performances with or those, I'll just say two, because Rolly spoiled the party. But the plan was for everybody to not go all out and be ready for their next fights. And that's what I feel like was bullshit that weekend. And that's why I didn't buy none of that shit and watch the replays. You see what I'm saying? So it's like these fights, you gotta count them in the context of what they are, because they're all part of a future plan. And so that's all I'm saying. When we look at this and we talk about this historic lows and all that, we can critique it, but critique it in the context of, hey, they're setting up bigger fights before these fights, and these boxers is all playing some type of script.
So
right,
you think Turkey
right.
paid them all of that money to go in there and do what they did?
No, I think Turkey pays them that money to do that, but not for it to look that obvious. So it's like you
Turkey
gotta
went in
save
there and told
face.
Turkey went into the man's locker room and told William Skull to don't mistreat Canelo.
Yeah, that's the rumor, right? That's what Skull said. But what I'm saying is Turkey, them guys is all part of the script. So of course he gonna say that tweet and all that shit. I'm not interested in him tweeting. I'm interested in him getting some tickets sold so we can really see if this Canelo and Bud fight's gonna really happen. Sell some fucking tickets so we know the fight's real. But what I'm saying is like this is like, hey, they have a plan, and then how them boxers look, that shit look bad. It ain't Turkey don't want it to look that bad, but he do for his money for interest is he need all them boxers to get through the fights that they was getting through so they can get to the big money for the demand for the fans. They needed Ryan and Devin. Just like he needed, and then he needs Canelo and Bud to be a clean fight. So therefore, when Skull runs around and then even Canelo for his legacy, it's like if the boy's running and it's like I'm gonna let me walk him down and he's gonna let me dominate or not dominate, but let me still win doing this shit. I'm gonna do this shit because I'm about to go into a real challenge with one of the all-time greats in my era. So it's like that's what. So I don't agree with that shit. I didn't watch that shit. You feel me? But I understand why they did that shit. And honestly, for me, I'm glad Canelo did that shit because I'm a Bud fan and I don't want no excuses. I want him to be fresh in there. So if he knocks Bud out, so be it. But if he get beat, I don't want no fucking excuses.
So you
Yeah.
think what Jamel Charlo
Wait,
said
wait, wait,
has
wait,
some
wait.
truth to it?
Hold on. I need Too Rich to tap in. I wanted him to tap in. So before y'all, Too Rich, what's good with you, brother?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Clay and Ray and panel? Man, it's just a witch hunt, man. So let me say this first of all. Let's tackle the fighters looking forward. What they looking forward? Devin Haney might have been looking forward to the next fight for sure. But that's not unnormal. When a big fighter signs to a new promotional team, he know what the fights is. Canelo, when he signed to the PBC, he knew what the fights were. So that's not really a excuse for how you fight. You know what the fight. You know if you're a big enough fighter, when you sign to a promotional company, they got 2 or 3 fights. You know what those fights are. So that happens all the time. But this is just a witch hunt, man. They done basically trying to set a rule for 2 fighters, which is Shakur and Devin, because ain't nobody thinking about Skull. Now, for years, we heard them praise and romanticize the Cuban style or the movement, the this, the that, and nobody had a problem with movement. Now, all of a sudden, it's a problem. It's just like this. Say if you have an opponent and his skill set is movement, and you can't keep up with the movement, you need to slow him down. So what they're just psychologically trying to convince black fighters to slow down so everybody, I call it the give my son a chance mentality. If you can slow these black fighters down, make them stand right there, then everybody has a chance. That's what it's all about. Movement has always been a part of boxing. Imagine telling Muhammad Ali, don't move. You see what I mean? If Tank run around the ring, oh, he on the back foot. But if the fighter you like run around the ring, oh, he running. You see what I mean? At the end of the day, I could clip up clips from the Roach fight and see Tank damn near running dig routes, back and forth, trying to reset his feet. It's a part of boxing. So when a fighter get hit, he's supposed to just stand there. Is he not supposed to move away? If we go to the UFC, we can find fighters that literally turn their back and run around the ring, run away. And the UFC is one of the most exciting, sporting type of events for those people out there. So this idea about this run, at the end of the day, they can't beat them. That's what it's all about. Devin Haney, this is the only fight that you seen him run in, and all of a sudden now running is a problem. They're going to take the last fight, make it his worst fight, and they're going to boil his whole career down to that. Do they boil Tank's career down to Tank taking a knee? We shouldn't expect Tank to do shit but take a knee. That's all we should expect. We're going to take everybody by their last fight. You see what I mean? At the end of the day, can you beat them? And that's what it's all about. It's just a slick game to slow the black fighter down so you can give everybody a chance, get a Mexican a chance, get a UK people a chance. And some of this too now is coming from the UK too, because they do a lot of rock and sock and robots. You see what I mean? Turkey paying for the fights. You see what I mean? So it's gonna be some back and forth there, but to me, it's just worthless. I just think it's blown out of proportion, and it's just a slick way to slow the black fighter down.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I agree with everybody.
I think that I don't know if I'm on board with it specifically tailored to take the black fighter down. When you look at an Abdullah Mason, or you look at Keyshawn Davis, or you look at a lot of fighters that are slick. I think at the end of the day, the Devin Haney performance on that night, there was a purpose behind it, but it still wasn't. It wasn't. People don't want to see that. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And if you want to build the value up and be a high prize fighter, you expect somebody to pay you. If you're not going to make the bottom line make sense for the investor, then how much longer is the investor going to continue to move in that direction? You can only force feed this idea of moving around the way Devin did that night as something that casual fans need to get with. They're not going to, right? They're going to say they're either going to make one or two decisions. They're either going to accept it or they're not. And if they don't accept it, then you have to find a way to make money. You have to find enough fans that are going to be a fan of that style of boxing. Like I said earlier, and I've heard other people say, I know Devin Haney doesn't normally fight that way. Devin Haney moves. He stays behind the jab. He keeps the distance. He does those things, but he never fights the way he fought against Jose Ramirez. He got infected with the idea of, I got this next fight coming up, so I'm going to preserve myself and not take too many risks, and I'm just not going to get hit. And it worked out because it was in Times Square. There was no audience. Nobody was booing him. He was able to get away with it. Future reference, I think he's going to have to consider the performance. He's going to have to consider it. And if he doesn't, I think ultimately you're going to find the Turki Alalshikhs or the investors and the promoters in the game that are not going to want to really work. They're not going to want to put him in fights. That's what's going to happen. You saw Devin Haney almost go there, and he didn't even have a performance like that. He had a great performance. I mean, not great, but he had a performance where he was pushing it and trying to make it happen against Ryan Garcia. And you saw Devin Haney not be able to get promoters to put him in the fights and pay him the money he wanted then. So if Turki Alalshikh wasn't in the picture, where would Devin Haney be? Fighting for Black Prime, right? That's where he would have been. He wouldn't have been able to fight for Matchroom or Top Rank or any of these other outfits and make the money that he wants to make. He felt the change in the algorithm for him. He felt it. He got upset with boxing and said, "Oh, they're trying to blackball me." But what boxing was letting him know was your market value isn't there anymore. You're not the guy who we thought you were or who you had everybody believing you are. So yeah, perform, box, move around, hit, don't get hit, but also think about your bottom line when it's all said and done.
Hey, but look, check this out. Check this out, Clay. We saw Jamal Charlo fight Cornflake. Cornflake literally was turning his back. We saw Jamal Charlo cut that ring off with no problem. Nobody's talking about Cornflake moving and running. Nobody's talking. We're talking about Devin and them because they win. But
Right.
if Jamal Charlo cuts the ring off, knocks this guy out, we praise Jamal Charlo and we don't criticize Cornflake. So this ain't about just movement. It's about winning. It's about, can you beat him? You see what I'm saying? Can you beat him? But once again, I'm going to say this. The guy don't even fight like that. To take one fight and penalize, they ain't like Devin Haney before that. It's probably nothing Devin Haney going to do for them to like him. So that's not the key either. I just think it's blown out of proportion. Now, I think Devin Haney fought a bad fight, and we all know that. We're not protecting that. What I'm saying, it was one fight. It was one fight.
Right. I agree.
I was on the line, but I was trying to explain that. I was like, I'm not saying this fight was great. I just said that, you know what I mean? He had a plan. He fought to the plan. He fought off the back foot. He used combinations. He looked like he was setting up something.
What, can I ask you this, Ray?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think Devin Haney has anything to worry about because I don't think the way Devin Haney fights bothers Turki Alalshikh. I think we have to remember that Turki Alalshikh is a fan of Devin Haney.
Yeah.
And he's always wanted to push the brand that Devin Haney has. He's always appreciated the way Devin Haney fights. But I mean, what else did he appreciate about him if he was going to push him? Devin Haney has been a fighter before he fought Jose Ramirez. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that performance deserves the scrutiny that performance is getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think a statement about the Tom and Jerry thing moving around should be taken so personal as if it's directed at Devin Haney.
Well,
I just don't believe it. I think the boxing space is going to do that, but I think Devin Haney should be comfortable in his skin and be like, "That's cool. I don't fight like that normally, so I ain't even tripping." Right. And I think as fans, we should understand that as well. But if there is excessive movement and not enough action, we've all seen those fights before, right? I think everybody agrees what Shakur Stevenson did against De Los Santos, barring his injury, not including that in your mindset, was unacceptable, right? That performance against De Los Santos was like, yo, what the hell was he doing? Am I wrong or right?
Right.
Right?
But look, Clay, I agree with you 1,000, 2,000%. Let me give you that, right? I agree with you, and I don't think anybody wanted that fight. I think I wanted to see Devin go in there and put on a better performance. But at the end of the day, and I hate using the word "but," you know that, Clay. At the end of the day, what I noticed in that fight, and I see, and I'm not taking away anyone's criticism. What I'm saying is that if you look at all the tweets, all the statements, and this is what I was getting at in my conversation, which True Rich touched on, and what Coach Eddie said, they're directing it towards Devin. They're using Devin as a scapegoat to paint him as the poster boy of running in the ring. That's my point. And I said, I don't think he's the only. Basically, I was trying to get to the point is he's not the only fighter to fight like that, number one. Number two, he was setting up punches. It's not his fault the guy can't cut off the ring. As Coach Eddie said, what's the name, got to Floyd Mayweather, you know what I mean, in the corner. You know what I mean? He was able to shut that down. You have fighters that are able to cut off the ring. If you can't cut off the ring, what happens? Then you're sitting there looking stupid, right? You're sitting there looking like I'm not engaging. This guy looks like he can't box and he's getting frustrated. So when it happens, the same thing you explained to me with De Los Santos Shakur, right? De Los Santos got to cut the ring off, right? Where was, and not to you, I'm saying everyone said that. Everyone was saying that in the defense of Shakur. So where was that energy when Ramirez cut off the ring to Devin? Nobody had that energy because of the hatred of Devin, because they want to make Devin the poster boy of this. They want to make Devin the guy that says one thing. No one even mentioned William Skull, which I'm glad Coach Eddie pointed out, because if you look at all the thumbnails, no one had William Skull in any of those thumbnails. They never had Shakur in any of those thumbnails. Only person they had in the thumbnail, they don't even have Jamel Charlo in the thumbnail, right? He ran. Nobody. The only thing they wanted to do is put Devin in the thumbnail and show that Devin, who moved up in weight, Devin challenged himself, Devin put a playlist out, right, of who he wants to fight, who are all top fighters, get in the ring, you know what I mean, because I'm calling you out. And guess what? Still no response. Is they not responding because he runs, or are they not responding because he's a good fighter? That's what it comes down to. And I think even that being said, even our boy Tio put the excuse out, well, Devin had a bad fight. You know what I mean? Who cares? You had multiple bad fights. Did we look at the bad fights that Tio had? Let's ask ourselves, right? And I'm not trying to switch the needle. What I'm saying is everyone has an opinion on it, which they're entitled to. But when we look at the facts, it's boxing. And boxing is the hit and not get hit. The more points I can score on you and less you score on me, I win the fight. That's all I'm trying to say.
You know, you can arguably say somebody that can't cut the ring off is a bum. You can say that because they call people who can do a lot more. They call them bums. So if you can't cut the ring off, if you can't cut the freaking ring off, you're a freaking bum. Because it's not that hard to do. I promise you. If you played any type of sport, basketball, football, whatever, it's a baseline. It's boundaries. You force that man to the boundary, which is the corner or the ropes, and you let your hands go. What stops you from cutting the ring off is the fear. First of all, you're probably getting hit with punches, and you don't want to let your hands go because you're getting countered. And that's why Canelo stood there and looked at Skull, because Skull was lighting his butt up. Go look at all them lumps in Canelo's face in between rounds. Skull was cracking that dude. And Canelo like, I ain't taking no chance messing my money up. I'm going to win anyway, so I'm going to throw 168 punches, and they're going to blame it on Skull anyways. I don't care. You know, and he got paid $50 million to do it. And like I said, they putting that jacket on Devin Haney. And one content creator put Skull in the thumbnail. It didn't do anything. He took that guy down and put Devin Haney, and it went crazy. It went viral. And it's not fair. Now this jacket is going to be on this young man for the rest of his career. And he ain't no shaking it.
I'm gonna tell you why it definitely an attack on the let me say it right, the American black fighter, because they talking about running, but if you hear them good, they loosely talking about lateral movement too. You see, they're trying to do everything to get you to stand right there, man. Just stand there. You see, and essentially you're just gonna have pressure fighters versus flat-footed fighters. You see what I mean? Okay, in the UK. We see how they turn out for their fights over there. They big on fighting over there. The crowds be packed, 80,000, 90,000 people in the stadium. They throwing hands, they going crazy. And then when those fighters come over here, we call them Euro bombs. We call them Euro bombs. You see what I mean? Because we recognize no skill. And now we're trying to tell our American black fighter, hey man, cut down with any kind of skillful thing and just kind of stand there and throw punches. Imagine telling a black basketball player, hey man, don't do all that going through your legs and all that. So just dribble the ball down technically, turn your back to him, dribble it back him down, and come on, man. This our skill set is movement. Everything we do is about movement. I'm not saying running, but if you take away the movement, what you got left? You just got a Mexican. You just got a Euro bomb.
I think
You got to
balance
do
is
a better
important.
job.
I think balance is important. I agree.
Yeah.
You know, movement has got to be there, but there's got to be a balance. When it's excessive, it doesn't look good, man. It just doesn't when it's excessive. And you know, there's nothing wrong with pushing back at excessive movement. When you're moving to the point to where there can be no action, you know what I'm saying? There's no action in 12 rounds of fighting. You want me to sit there and just watch that? And then the next time you have a fight, you expect me to jump up out my seat and go spend money to go watch it? You're asking a lot. You got to, you know what I mean? You're asking for a lot. I can give you, but you got to give me. If it's a one-way street, then I think it's going to affect your bottom line. And that's going to be a decision for you to make of how you want to deal with that and how you feel about it when it's all said and done. Don't go complaining and saying, yo, the people don't want to pay me. What are you talking about, bro? Nobody wants to watch you. And I'm not directing this at Devin Haney. I'm just saying in general, a boxing fan has a right to be bored, right? To see something that's not entertaining to him. The name of the game is, if most of them aren't complaining, then you're good. They'll watch you. They'll come to watch you fight. But if most of them are complaining, you might want to address it.
Hey, yo, but Clay, at the end of the day, it's a missing skill set. It's the equivalent of missing somebody who can't throw a jab, or somebody who doesn't have a left hook, or somebody who doesn't throw a right hand. Cutting the ring off, if you can't do that, you are deficient in boxing. You are missing a skill set. Triple G cut the ring down on Kell Brook, no problem. On Willie Monroe, which is a very mobile, slick fighter, he cut the ring down and stopped him. So if you cannot cut the ring off, you are missing a skill set. And it is not the other boxer's fault because you can't stop him from moving. Floyd Mayweather has better footwork than Devin Haney. They cut the ring down on him. Ali had superior footwork. He got the ring cut down on him. So Devin Haney, if he had the right opponent at that night, that right opponent could have cut the ring down on Devin Haney and either stopped him or made him fight. And I'm gonna blame it on the other guy because it's not on Devin. Doesn't have to stand there. I mean, I understand everything you're saying is right, but it's a ditch on both sides. I just feel like if you can't cut the ring down, you are missing a skill set in boxing. That is fundamental because you're gonna fight guys who move.
It's definitely balance. Balance is needed. You know what I mean? Too much of anything can be a bad thing. I just take the statement on a surface level. I don't think it's an attack. I really don't. I think it's an inconvenient truth that I'm not interested in this. So please don't give me too much of this. You know, matchmaking plays its role. The other fighter plays his role, but people want to see fights with engagement. They want to see fights. And you're right. It's not Devin Haney's responsibility to slow down and make the fight a fight where Jose Ramirez now has a chance to do something. It's up to Jose Ramirez to make his opportunity happen. And once again, Devin Haney doesn't normally fight the way he fought against Jose Ramirez. He normally has, you know, when he fought Regis Prograis, he could have fought Regis Prograis the way he fought Jose Ramirez. You know what I mean? He could have. Regis Prograis was outclassed and didn't belong in the ring with Devin Haney, but he put hands on him. He hurt him. He made him pay. There were times in that fight against Jose Ramirez where I saw that Devin Haney could have done something. Where Jose Ramirez walked into something, you saw he made it more important to bail out and spin out and get out and get out of danger rather than taking advantage of a Jose Ramirez who just was not on his level.
Yeah, I think we need to do a better job. Like everybody's saying, it's this narrative against black fighters. So I would like suggest us and content creators to do a better job of putting out more positivity about the black fighters to counteract what they're doing to break the black fighter down. We got to do a better job of supporting the black fighters and bigging them up and holding everybody to the same standards. I think that can help out a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that can help a lot.
Hey, did y'all hear Pacquiao when they asked Pacquiao about his best fighters or whatever, and he didn't mention Mayweather? and they asked him why he didn't. He say Mayweather. He say, man, all Mayweather did was run. Now we might consider Mayweather a great fighter, but that was the narrative on Mayweather.
Yep.
Yep. But we all, yeah, I definitely disagree with Manny on that shit. But I mean,
to that point that everybody's making, it's like I said, everything comes to full circle, right? So what I had whole started this conversation with was that this is what people want. They want to see engagement, which is not a problem. I think everyone wants to see engagement, but I can't sit there and like Coach said, and let you just pound on me because pause, like stand there and let you hit me. No, my job is to not get hit. At the end of the day, it's to land more punches than you, and it doesn't matter what it takes. And I get the whole point, and everybody touched on this. He wanted the next fight. He knew it was a 3-fight deal or whatever. He wanted to get to the next fight. He wanted his revenge, and that was the case. We could say the same for a lot of fighters. And like I said, if we look at some of the fights, when people say that Gervonta started, and I hate bringing this up, but they say Gervonta starts slow. A lot of people say he starts slow. But what is he doing when he's on the back foot? Honestly, he's sitting there, he's getting punched. He's trying to move away from punchers. He's timing them up. He's doing certain things. That's what I was talking about in Ziggs earlier. What I was saying to you is that, yeah, he's setting up punches. He's setting them up to come in. We don't know what Devin looked like. He was trying to set up a big shot. Now, did he land them? He landed some big shots, but he didn't land the one that needed to capitalize on him moving forward. I think he was in a safe space, which I was trying to allude to before I started reading the chat, by the way, which Clay told me to stop doing. But he was trying to fight in a safe space with that, and I think him throwing those the power shots that he was to weaken Ramirez. And as he was trying to weaken him, he didn't get him weak enough where he could take advantage of it to slow him down and still move to the next fight. He didn't take advantage of those moments, as Clay just alluded to, when he did hit him with some shots and he had advantage time to do so. I think it's a lot of things that Kent needs to work on, and he needs to capitalize on certain situations going forward, as well as he needs to fight the fight he's going to fight, regardless of what it looks like to us. Yes, as a fan, I don't want to see somebody moving back and forth like that. If they want to call it Tom and Jerry now, that's what we're going to call it, because you know that's going to run through the airways. But, yeah, no, I agree with everybody's statements. Like I said, there's nothing that says neither one, but it's just I'm putting out that everyone's throwing Devin as the poster boy of this style of boxing when this thing started years ago. That's what
I think he doesn't need to be the poster boy. I think it's, even if that's the intention, I mean, yeah, bro, no ways he can.
The content creators.
Yeah, the content creators. I agree. That's why I said, for people to turn it into that, I think is narrative driven by the content creation space. I think Turki's statement was a fair statement off the strength of Tom and Jerry tactics. Right. Nobody likes to watch that. I don't think Devin does that. You feel what I'm saying? So I have a hard time when people turn it into a Devin thing. It's like, I know the content creators are going to do that, but I happen to believe that Turki was a fan of Devin Haney. That's why Tank didn't want to go fight Devin in Riyadh. That's why Tio didn't want to go fight Devin in Riyadh. Turki is a Devin fan. Is Turki a human being who could not be happy with his last performance? For sure. But he also knows, for the most part, he has a lot of reference to Devin fighting in a way that Turki has celebrated, and where he believes that Devin is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. That's why he supports him, and that's why he pushes him that way. That's why he has that relationship with Bill and Devin. He's not one of those guys who's sitting there trying to make Devin not fight the way Devin fights. He's one of those guys who actually put money behind Devin and offered to put money up for Devin to fight when nobody else wanted to support Devin. You know what I'm saying? In his fight, he actually jumped up and was like, "Nah, bro, I'm gonna give Devin a 3-fight deal because Devin's is like that." So that statement is being used by content creators to throw at Devin Haney, but I don't think Turki Alalshikh's intention was that when he made that statement.
I believe he was alluding to like how Charlo moved up to fight Canelo, and at the same time, Canelo chasing around Charlo after the second round of that fight. I believe he's like, yo, if you're gonna move up here and fight this guy, I made this fight happen. We done heard with the crowds, you know what I mean? They don't like the style of fighting. You need to get in there and fight. And I think he is addressing it to Bud. I think it is a message to Bud saying like, "Yo, listen, I need you guys to engage in this fight. Like, this is a big fight that I'm putting a lot of money in, and I need to see the investment work." That's what I believe came out. I think a lot of people are misinformed of the situation because they have to tag team someone and make them the villain. Devin is the biggest villain, and I'm glad he said he's accepting the villain role in boxing today, and it is what it is.
Yo, can I say something real quick? That Canelo's the one that had the 4-fight deal with Turki Alalshikh. Is not Bud. So let's make that clear.
Right.
Turkey is in the Canelo business, not the Crawford business.
Right.
They did the same thing. It's a documentary called Unforgivable Blackness. Talk about Jack Johnson. Now Jack Johnson is the orchestrator. They said quote unquote the N word is yeller, not yellow, yeller, because that's how they talk back. And that means cowardice. A coward. He won't stand there and fight. Turki Alalshikh, if he's direct, everything y'all said kind of makes sense. If he's directed this at Bud, he wants Canelo to beat Bud. Because he knows that's his only opportunity is for Bud to stand there and trade with him. Why didn't he direct that? Like I said, at the end of the day, Canelo threw 168 punches. That is an all-time low. That averages out to about 14 punches a round. In one round, he threw 4 punches. He was 0 for 4, and they gave him a round that he literally threw 4 punches in and didn't land any of them. And they gave it to Canelo. They want Bud to stand. They want Bud to stand still and let Canelo knock him out. That's what they want.
Yeah, I agree.
Whoever they is, y'all can do the math. But I'm just saying.
I'm not ready to say they want to see Terrence get knocked out, but I definitely agree with you to say that Turkey is very focused and dialed in on this fight not being like what just happened in Times Square and in Riyadh season. He doesn't want that to happen. He wants this fight to meet the demand of what they think the fight is going to be. He wants the boxes checked. And once again, I don't fault them. I don't fault them to say that, you know what? I love boxing. I'm investing in boxing, but I put a lot into putting this fight together. Clearly, I spent a massive amount of money. Canelo Alvarez didn't even want the fight. You know what I mean? Fans were pushing back at the fight, saying that Terrence didn't deserve it. I put everything into making this fight happen. You know what I'm saying? I really pulled out all the resources. I walked away at one point because Canelo was getting fresh with me. You know what I'm saying? Trying to play with my face. And I came back to it and I finally put it together. Please don't make me regret this. We finally got it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got a child or somebody who's been begging you for something. And it's like under your badge of judgment, you overpaid to give him something, and now you're letting the kid know, like, yo, don't make me regret this, bro. I went all out to get you this thing that really I almost didn't get for you because everybody was making it impossible for me to get it to you. Don't make me regret it. Don't make me look dumb. Don't make me look stupid at the end of this where people are like, see, I told you. Please don't do it. I already went through it just right now with the Fatal Fury car in Times Square, and I went through it with the Williams Skull Canelo fight. Please.
So what do y'all think happened if we get a performance like that?
Let me jump in right quick. Hey, what we seeing is a narrative being created, though. You know, just before these two fights, that wasn't like a main narrative. Now, all of a sudden, it's a main narrative, and it's going to change the way people look at the fight because now we're going to anticipate. Are we running? Are we this and that? You know, and this is going to affect the fights. If we look at Tank versus Roach, right? To me, I thought it was a great fight for both fighters. Great fight. But especially if you're a Tank fan, they'll say, well, if Tank fought a bad fight. Well, why did he fight a bad fight? You mean tell me if you don't just run in there, get knocked out, or get knock a guy out, or get knocked out, it's a bad fight? If you actually just box. And a reason why I say it's an attack on the black fight, it's not about running. We know all these fighters not gonna run. It's gonna be an attack on lateral movement because they're gonna try to make lateral movement look like it's running. See, what all they want you to do is stand right here and slip and throw punches. Stand right here in the pocket and slip it and throw punches. If that's not your strength, the skill set, why are you doing it? So I want you to imagine being a fighter, right? And you, Devin Haney, you go out there to Ryan Garcia and you step to him because everybody question whether you don't really fight. And you step to him, you get beat up all the side of the head, and everybody in America say, "Oh, he should have just boxed, stayed on the outside and boxed." So the next fight, he comes out on the outside and boxes. And they say, "No, That's wrong too, because you didn't do it the way we wanted you to do it.
Right,
Now,
right.
was it a bad fight? That was a bad look. I'm never agreeing with that, but I also not blowing out proportion and say that most people return to who they are, even if they have bad habits. And he's not a runner, so to blow this out of proportion is what I'm saying. Now,
Right.
two things to be right from Turkey point of view. Hey man, I'm paying y'all this money, man. I can't have y'all out there running around all this stuff. I ain't got no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. Now I'm gonna land the plane right here. Tiger Johnson versus whatever that guy he fought, right?
Yeah.
Tiger Johnson was a little reluctant.
What was
to,
it like? Chicky or something like that?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Tiger Johnson was a little reluctant to engage sometimes. What
Yes.
that dude do? He stood right there in the middle ring and said, "Come here." I ain't got no
Right.
problem with that. I ain't no problem. And I'm saying Canelo versus Skull, that was a little excessive. If I was Canelo, I said I would have did the same. I would have stood right in the middle of the ring. Now you come right here. So it's a way we can make it exciting. It should be a clash of styles. That's what old boxing was, a clash of styles. It wasn't just rock'em sock'em robots.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That was a brilliant take. I like the way you put that, man. Yeah, it was cool. Hold on. We got 61 people in the building. Salute to everybody in the building. Please take a moment if you haven't, and a lot of you haven't, hit that like button, please. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, take an opportunity to do that as well. But at a minimum, please, hit the like button. I appreciate you guys. Go ahead. I guess Ray.
Yeah, real quick, and I'm gonna let Antoine go, 'cause I know he's waiting. So it's no different than having different martial arts styles and getting to a martial arts tournament, right? Or a kumite, as they call it, right? Back then in Japan or Korea, wherever it was, China, excuse me. You have martial arts styles that combat other martial arts styles. That's why they train and then do different things. No one's telling anybody that do wushu that they should not fight somebody that does jiu-jitsu. Somebody that does karate shouldn't fight somebody that does taekwondo. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, kung fu versus Muay Thai. Like, the reason why you have these styles, because they combat something. They give you something different. Now, one style may be better, but in a round robin of things, one may be better than each one. And it's the person that has the best discipline is the one that's going to reign supreme on that notion. You can't sit there and think that, oh, my style is better, and then when you don't look the part, you call this guy that's doing kung fu, oh, why don't he stand still and let this guy that does Muay Thai punch him? Why he doing all this flexing and one hand jumping jack stuff, and you know what I mean? Like, why he doing this? Why he using Prey Mancha style? Like, you can't do that. It's boxing, bro. It's a style, and styles make fights just like anything else in sports. Opposites compare at the same time. So we have to allow that to be the part of the sport, because if we don't, we'll just have everybody looking like a robot in the ring, and it ends up there. My bad. Go ahead, Ant.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, just listening to everybody and everybody's take on the whole so-called Tom and Jerry effect now, if that's what we calling it. I just wanted to ask the panel, what from the things that y'all just broke down, and if that message was to Bud or if it was to Devin or it was to whoever, and Turkey putting up this money for this fight, and possibly this might be his biggest fight, where though he's actually able to turn a profit. Like he said, like, a lot of these fights, they lost money. So, this might be his profitable fight. So what if we get a fight like we just seen with a Canelo and a Skull, or a Devin and a Ramirez? What do y'all think Turkey will implement then? Like, where do you think we go from there with Turkey in the
I
sport
would
of
like
boxing?
That's a
I
good
would like to
question.
answer that. I would like to answer that question. Now, if you are the quintessential quote unquote pressure fighter, you know what plays into your strength? Movement. If the guy's moving, you're a pressure fighter, you prefer a guy to move. You like it. Triple G loved when guys ran from him because he's a come forward guy. It played into his strength. And that's the thing. So you can't, if it turns out to be like Skull, Canelo, Devin Haney, Ramirez, you got to blame it on the quote unquote pressure fighter. Because if you're a true pressure fighter, that plays into your strength. I like that. They actually, pressure fighters prefer guys to move, because that actually wears that guy down. He's gonna keep moving. He's gonna get slower and slower, and the pressure is gonna wear him out. Even if I'm not throwing punches, just my presence is gonna wear this guy down. It's gonna psychologically, physically, and mentally drain this guy, and eventually I'm going to catch him and I'm going to stop him.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's
I'm
all
more
about.
focused on the Turki Alalshikh part in the conversation.
Yeah,
That's why I said, like,
I think what you're saying basically is, will he change his approach?
what does Turkey do
Yeah.
after that? If he gets another from him putting that tweet out and saying certain things, where does Turkey go within the sport? Does he scale back and start to do things like what does Turkey do if we have another performance like that and these content creators are blaming one fighter and not the other, and Turkey is taking flack for a quote unquote boring fight or whatever? Like, what happens to Turkey in that process?
So
B sides, you match up B sides and pay them less money. That's how you get a better fight.
Okay.
I mean, you could say that, but I think from what I just heard, I'm thinking also just saying is, how does Turkey deal with the pressure of that happening again, and him having to be the scapegoat? They're going to make Turkey the scapegoat no matter what. There's a lot of people out there that just don't rock with Turki Alalshikh. So no matter what happens in the ring, Turkey is like the coach on the football field, right? You can put your players in the game, but you can't make them score the touchdown. You can't make them hit a home run. You can't make them make the catch. They have to perform to their standards. So Turkey's not the one that sits there and says, I can put rules in the game and say, look, I need this to happen, but I can't make those rules if they're not real rules, like air quote rules, right? I can't make them really happen. So if it's not entertaining to the fans, yes, I can be like, look, I'm not bringing you back here, which we see in NFL, right? They cut players all the time. You're not living up to the hype, bro. We're going to let you go. Whereas you got a guaranteed contract, they got to deal with it. So I think Turkey's standpoint is, look, you guys got to go out there and do what you got to do. You got to play this game right. You got to do what you have to do in the ring to get this bag. If you don't, and you run around, listen, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to cut your purse to this, and we're going to put it in your contract or whatever he has to do to make that happen. But also, you got to remember, just like anybody else, he's in the business for entertainment. All right, money comes with entertainment, but he's in the business for entertainment. He's in there putting the best versus the best. We've seen it multiple times, and having that type of thing. You know, you're getting the Super Bowl of events with Turki Alalshikh a lot, with all these fighters we never even heard of being top-notch fighters versus fighters that we know and love. So I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing with Turkey is, and to your point is, Turkey can't be held accountable for either way those actions go. He's only a person that's trying to force the event to happen. And
I still think y'all kind of misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Let me tap in.
Models. Right,
let me tap in. I know exactly what you're saying, bro. I know they're missing the point. The question is, how will Turkey can the results of this fight change the way Turki Alalshikh chooses to approach building these events? In other words, if this event joins the Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull, joins the Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez, joins these fights, and he's trying to get outside of it, how does Turkey react and deal with that at this point? And I think that's a great question, because I think Turkey saying that, Anton, is a reflection of Turkey letting it be known. I think he's kind of giving a heads up that he wants to see this start to move in the right direction again. He's not happy with the direction that these cards have been going in. That's how I hear it. That, all right, 1 card, 2 cards, all right, 3 cards. Listen, I want to stop this. I'm getting paid no matter what energy, and just having a sparring match, glorified sparring match, and I want you guys to fight for glory in these rings. I want big fights with big performances. And in the American boxing scene, I want this because I haven't been getting it. When I go to England and I put Daniel Dubois against Anthony Joshua, 90,000 plus people, they put it all out there. Anthony Joshua went out on his shield trying to make it happen. When I put Chris Eubank and Conor Benn in the ring, they went out. They went all out. Damn near almost killed each other. When I put Devin Haney in there against, you know what I'm saying, Jose Ramirez, the next fight was the reason why I overpaid fighters, and you know I took away the incentive. When I put Canelo Alvarez in the Williams Skull, all of a sudden y'all acting weird. I'm hoping Edgar Berlanga goes all out against Hamza Shiraz, and that Shakur Stevenson goes all out against William Zepeda. I think he's just making a statement and just keeping it 100. And I think it will be interesting to see how Turki Alalshikh reacts to this event, period. Whether it goes great, because if it goes great, we see him double down in making events out here. But also, if it goes bad and it turns out to not to be a lackluster event, we see Turki Alalshikh pull back a little bit from the American boxing scene and double down on investing in TKO and in fights happening in the UK.
Hey, I'm gonna say this. I understand it from Turki. He wants to put on a good event, and like I say, as he should. What my problem is, all of a sudden we have this anticipation and fear, like, oh, the next card they're gonna be running. I mean, just that's how powerful a narrative is. That's how powerful, through a few words in the last week or so, all of a sudden the whole narrative has changed. Now, what I would say, as far as Turki, incentivize the payments. You just see what I'm saying? Incentivize certain round knockouts by certain rounds. Instead of giving them all the money, make it just like the NFL or somebody, give them a base pay and an incentive plan that they can reach these incentives. And this could have been so simple. Okay, we had too much movement in these fights, right? Okay, all right, we go to the ref. Look here, ref, there ain't no engagement in 20, 30 seconds. I need you to stop and pause and issue warnings and make sure they're engaged. That's all it had to be. It don't have to be this big narrative. It don't have to be this big narrative. If a referee can start a count and stop the count, and he got authority to do that, he got authority to say, hey, guys, we need some action. That's all. It don't have to be this big old narrative and legislation and all this kind of stuff. We anticipating all the years of boxing, and in 1 week, we're anticipating the worst. I don't buy that. I don't think Turki came over here because that was the full narrative. He could have just stayed in the UK and put on fights for the UK people if all of a sudden now they're so good. See, it's the reason why we're good, and now they're trying to take that way away. Why are you here? You didn't even have to come here. You could have just stayed in the UK and put on fights all over there. That's if they so exciting. If that's what it is, but clearly that's not what it is. Eubanks and Conor Ben, yeah, exciting fight. It was sloppy. It was no skill. It was no skill. So that's why I say it gets tricky. It gets tricky when like you say, it should be a balance. That's what you said, a balance. It should be a balance to it, no doubt about it. But when you start trying to go hard one way or the other, it gets tricky. Because like I said, you're going to dumb the sport down. Like I came out of the music industry, bro. We know, hey, man, you want to make a hit record, you got to dumb that shit down. Meaning you don't be the best rapper. Don't be the best singer. Dumb it down. You see what I'm saying? And in a sense, that's what you see boxing going through. They're trying to dumb it down a little bit in order to manufacture excitement. The problem is that excitement in the UK, we call them bombs over here. And it's a reason why we call them bombs.
Yeah. Once again, I want to go on record as to say that I don't think that, I think Turki Alalshikh is learning a lot about this boxing space, about the boxing fan in the boxing space, and specifically a lot about American boxing. And where he puts out statements to where he's from is just a statement on the strength of its own legs, right? It's not a big deal. When he makes a statement like that to say he doesn't want to see this Tom and Jerry thing anymore, I wonder if he anticipates the way that the boxing space is going to react as far as putting this on Devin Haney and turning this into more than it needs to be, or is he just communicating freely to say, I want Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez to fight each other. I don't want them running away from each other. I don't want Terrence running away from Canelo. I don't want Canelo running away from Terrence. I want these guys to fight each other. This fight right here needs to meet the expectation. But all of a sudden it's turned into the Devin Haney to hate on Devin Haney, when the only people who got a fight coming up that Turkey's literally promoting right now is Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. I think we just take it and go with it as is creation space. We turn it into something that's not necessarily. I don't think he's attacking Devin. I really don't. I don't think this was directed at Devin. I don't think this was directed at anybody more than probably Terrence and Canelo, just to say that I want to see you guys fight each other because of the payday that's going to be there. Don't just take the payday and spar each other for 12 rounds. Try to win this fight. That's what I think it is. Shout out to Ill Will for $5. They said they score higher for effective punching and aggression. You won't win doing ineffective movement. Scoring ain't equal anymore. It's been judge discretion. That's true. That's true.
I think that goes back to what what's his name said earlier. frequent when he was saying the timing of the tweet with Turkey putting it out. So I think Turkey kind of assessed, and he's on Twitter, he's on Instagram. I'm pretty sure he got advisors. He kind of assessed the weekend of the Fatal Fury card, and then once he got everything together for the Canelo and Terrence Crawford, then that tweet comes out, hey, this, that, and the third. So he's probably just speaking into the future for that future fight that's coming up, because like you said, other than the Shakur and the Peta and the Hamza Shiraz and what's his name fight, is Turkey putting on that fight as well?
Well, yeah. Well, Ring Magazine,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So those are the two fights that he got lined up. So yeah, he's probably just, I don't think that was directed at Devin either. I think it was definitely just, letting future cards and future fights that he's putting on, like, hey, I'm paying y'all, I just want to see a good fight. Point blank period. I just think it's as simple as that. I think it was blown out of proportion.
Pro Box, right? Pro Box, I like their cards, right? And they have a standard of Pro Box that if you don't engage or you're not letting your hands go, they won't bring you back. They will not bring you back on Pro Box. So, hey, if you want to do something like that, hey, what I say is incentivize it, so you can do subtle things and nudge them to fight more. You see what I mean? Or you could just set the standard. Hey, if you don't engage, you don't get no more money. I don't have a problem with that. I just think everything is blown a little bit out of proportion. I don't think it's a panic needed for all this. I just think the same fighters always get smoked. The smoke just changes. It's the same shit. You don't like Haney, you don't like Shakur, and everybody likes Tank. So it don't matter how Tank fight. He could take 10,000 knees. Nobody gonna have a problem with it. It ain't gonna be no outrage. It ain't gonna be we're expecting Tank that Roach need 2 knockdowns to win the next fight. Because our anticipation is that Tank will get the knockout. So that's why I say they just setting the narrative, so we anticipating all this fear shit. It's just mental games, man, trying to slow the black fighter down. Maybe even trying to nudge Terrence Crawford into, hey, man, stand there and trade. Terrence Crawford use lateral movement. All of us right now, if Shakur came in there and fought Zepeda and really just stood there and tried to trade with Zepeda and got knocked out, we all say, well, why didn't Shakur fight his normal fight? So I agree that you do not listen to the fans. You dance with what got you to the party. And if it works, it works. If people rather have a little bit of, the dummy fights, the rock'em sock'em robot, that's fine. If that's what floats your boat, that's fine. But if being great come with a little bit less money, then that's fine too. The great ones don't make the most money. I don't think people realize that. You can cut all kind of corners to make money. You're not great based on the amount of money that you make. You can make the right moves. Like I try to use the example. Everybody thinks Floyd Mayweather versus Zab Judah was a great fight. I think it was a great fight. Zab Judah had 5 losses at the time that Floyd Mayweather faced him. Who you giving credit with 5 losses in today's time? So the problem is not the styles. Make these niggas fight, man. That's the problem. Make them fight. You should not be picking and choosing your own fights. Make them fight, and then you'll get the excitement.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Definitely. The picking
I
and
agree
choosing
with
is
that
difficult.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But like this could change the way people fight, because like I say, now you're trying to get out of character. Like Devin Haney got out of character. Another perfect example was Andrade. He goes up, he tried to bulk up, he goes in and try to knock out David Benvidez because he's trying to prove to the public that he's not a horrible fighter.
Right.
Because Canelo called him a horrible fighter. I'm gonna show him not a horrible fighter. This is my chance to show everybody that I'm not a horrible fighter. I'm gonna bulk up and try to knock this dude out and wind up getting destroyed. If he would have fought his normal fight, I'm not saying he would have won, but he probably wouldn't have got knocked out.
Yep. Y'all, I was talking to my younger brother, and he's a huge boxing fan. He stopped watching boxing because he said he don't like the way it's moving, which is funny. And I told him we need to tap back in. I told him we need to tap into the channel also. But just on words of what we were just talking about and discussing, I mentioned the situations with him, and he said the difference between what we're all talking about is you're looking at what people like the sport versus the entertainment. And that was a great thing he just said. I said, I'm going to go up there and use that because you hit the nail right on the head. People don't care so much about the sport as they do the entertainment of the boxing world. They'll rather see the knockout or the blow for blow as opposed to the skill set, the movement, the dance of boxing, the sweet science. They'll rather see that because to them, the boxing portion is out the window, because if I can get in there and I have a boxer to a puncher, the puncher is going to entertain me more. He's going to bring the value up, and I think that's where we're starting to see the fan base move towards, because it's a violent sport, and they'll rather see the violence over the skills. They'll rather see that, and I think my brother hit that right on the head. He goes, and that's a lot of problem with the casual fan. The casual fan base is of that nature, not so much of the boxing fans, and that's where we need to separate the two, and we have to understand 80% of people are casual fans. And I was like, wow.
Guys, do you mind if I segue into another topic? Are we good on this topic?
Yes, sir.
I want to segue into the fights we got coming up this weekend. Definitely would like to get everybody tap in on this Richardson and Cambosus fight, as well as Andy Cruz trying to, I guess, make a statement in his fight, right? Eddie Hearn wants to fast track him into some title shots and conversations. He needs a performance at 5-0. It's kind of hard to remove him from the prospect category. You know what I mean? Even though they say he's a contender because they moved him up in the rankings, but I think the argument's a little difficult to make right now. So this fight seems to be tailor-made for that. But where are you guys on Hitchens and Cambosus, and specifically this IBF rehydration clause in Richardson Hitchens, who's been very vocal about how difficult it is for him to compete dealing with this clause? How do you see him? Do you see that affecting him in any adverse way, or is he just going to, be a professional and cut the weight properly and deal with it and school Cambosus?
I like the fight. I like the fight. Will it be the most exciting fight in this climate of what's going on? I'm not sure. I don't know if Cambosus could bring enough, but what I do know, Cambosus is coming to fight. I like Cambosus, not because I think he's the best fighter, but he's a fighter that Richard Hitchens is going to be better if he beat him. Because Cambosus going to come try to win. He's going to he might not have the skill or the talent to do it, but he got the heart. He got the will to try to do it. So this is a good fight for Hitchens. He is a lot like Devin. He should have that long shotgun jab. He don't use the right enough for me, but I favor Hitchens. But Cambosus has done it before. He trying to get back, and if you look at the resume, Cambosus has the most experience, and it matters. You see what I mean? And so I'm looking for a good fight. 35% chance for upset for Cambosus, but I favor Hitchens.
Yep, I think Hitchenson's going to try to make a statement, because I think he's trying to put his name in the hat for the Devin Haney fight. So he's going to try to get the job done better than Devin, but we got to remember Cambosus got stopped by Lomachenko, so you basically got a guy who already been stopped. I think Hitchens, he can stop Cambosus. I'm not sure if he's going to go out there and try to, but it's a lot of money on the table now, and I think a lot of these guys some of them are starting to push the gas a little bit more, because they're seeing the reward, on the horizon. It's like, hey, I can get on a Turkey card. I can get a shot if I go out there and put on a good performance. Even we seen that with Albright. I mean, Albright was smiling ear to ear, because he know his net worth is probably going to go up now off of that win, even though it wasn't like you beat a blue chip prospect or a contender or something, but it was a good win for you. And so I think it's going to be a good fight. Like I said, Kambosos, he's fast at times when he throws his hands, and he's good with a certain style. Like him and T.O., that was a good style for him, because T.O. was kind of right there for him, and Kambosos does have quick hands. He's kind of fast, and he's explosive at times when he wants to be. So Hitchens is going to have to manage that range and don't give Kambosos opportunities to use that explosive power. And also, Kambosos has sneaky power. He'll sneak something in on you, and it's decent. It's respectable. So I favored Hitchens to win the fight, but like it's boxing, anything can happen.
I think it's a good fight. I favor Hitchens to win too. Too Rich and Coach made some good points, or whatever the case may be. Hitchens, to me, he has a great jab. He does not throw enough combinations for me, man. It be times where I'll be like watching him fight, and I'll be, yo, let your hands go, let your hands go. Like even in the Liam Paro fight, he didn't really let his hands go. He won the fight, but he didn't really let his hands go. I never really seen Hitchens go in there with that type of energy, like I'm gonna step on you, and I'm gonna go in here and get this win, like convincingly. His last couple performances have been lackluster and kind of fights where though, he been getting crushed a little bit. So I hope he go in there with a chip on his shoulder and really to prove, because like they both said, one thing about Cambosus, he's coming to fight, man. He he doesn't have the best work. He got great hand speed. And the Tio fight was perfect for him because Styles make fights, because Tio takes a lot of chances. Tio will go in there to the fire when he don't really have to, and that's all Cambosos needed from Tio. I favor Hitchens, but I don't think he's going to stop him. I think he'll win on the cards. I don't think he'll get the stoppage until he show me he can get the stoppage.
Let me ask you guys a question though. If Hitchens, because from the general consensus is that Hitchens is going to use this as an opportunity to make a big argument. He's going to try to make a statement with this fight. And you just said, Anton, that you haven't really seen him really try to make that statement. And you want to see him try to make that statement. But, Ray Davis alluded to a little bit earlier that, Richardson Hitchens is a little one-dimensional. Not a lot of wrinkles to his game. He moves around. He's athletic. He stays behind that jab, but one-dimensional in many ways. If we see him fight in a way that he hasn't fought before, is Richard Hitchens potentially making a mistake, being over-aggressive? Can Cambosos take advantage of that? And can Hitchens get himself in trouble coming into this fight, being a brand new fighter, a fighter that you've never seen him be before? I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that, but basically,
I'm gonna say this. Okay, to set this up, I got a short I'm gonna put out at 3:00, right? And on another platform, I predicted that one of the Davis brothers would lose, right? Based on Keyshawn, him doing what he did, that one of the brothers were gonna take it hard. Okay, once we saw that it was Keyshawn, I said, okay, gotta be careful. All right, so before the fight, I'm like this. I said, Albright has fought a Keyshawn. Kelvin hasn't fought a likes of Keyshawn. I said, right. That experience, even though Albright lost, that experience is gonna matter. Okay. What did Kelvin have? He had a good 1-2. He had a good, but that's it. No wrinkles. Just a good 1-2. And when I look at Hitchens, the difference between Hitchens and Haney is Hitchens really just got a good one. He don't let the right hand go. He do not let the hit in that Lemos fight. He had opportunity to throw that right hand. He did not let that right hand go enough. So does he really have wrinkles? Does he go to the body enough? I see it's certain things that he might not pull the trigger as fast as Devin. We'll say Devin pillow fist, but that's because Devin pulling the trigger and we saying the guys are not getting knocked out. Hitchens is not pulling the trigger. That's going to give Cambosos more confidence. And like Cambosos said, you not know Devin Haney. And we gonna figure out that if Hitchens is really like Devin Haney, because I don't think he is. I think he really got a good jab, and if you get past that jab, you could touch him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he needs to be careful, Clay. Like you said, if he goes in there too aggressive, I think he can get caught by Cambosos. Like we said, his hands is a little fast. Hitchens got caught with something against Lemos. He didn't see that overhand, and he was hurt in that fight. He bounced back, but he was definitely hurt. But after he got hurt, even before that, he wasn't really throwing his hands. But after he got hurt, he really wasn't throwing his hands. That's why a lot of people thought he lost the fight. So he just gotta play it smart, man. He gotta go in there just kind of like Loma did and Devin. Break Cambosos down, man. He should definitely go to the body. Cambosos moving up to 140. You being a 140, possibly a natural 147 with his frame, he should invest in the body real early and break Cambosos down. All that head hunting and jab, fuck the jab to the head, excuse my language. Do the jab to the midsection like Floyd used to do, or like Rolly did to Ryan. Take his breath away, take his legs, and then go head hunting or whatever you're going to do if you're trying to get the stoppage. If he just come out there and he head hunting from the beginning, he's not getting no stoppage, and then we're going to get another performance like we've been seeing from him.
Yeah, and not to mention the weight. I know Clay was touched on that. We got to look at how he looks down. Like his weight right now in the ring. I'm sorry, in the pressers. He's not even in the weigh-in, and he already looks like he's below Cambosos. Cambosos is comfortable, And that plays a big part in the IBF. And I think that's the biggest key factor here. When I say one-dimensional, I'm talking about his footwork. I don't. He sits very low. He changes his levels, and I think when Hitchens' levels change, he doesn't change his levels with like on his toes and moves laterally. He kind of just sits there like he's stalking, and then he backs up. And then when he sees he hurt you, he moves forward, and then he'll slide in. Now he doesn't have a great defense. He's just a long rangey fighter. So when people are swinging at him, he's able to get out the way because of that jab. But when I see somebody like Cambosus who likes to bring up pressure and be a smother boxer per se, like somebody who likes to smother all the punches and combo on the inside and catch you in between punches, he poses a big threat for Hitchens, especially moving up in weight, and he doesn't have to lose that extra 5 pounds. It could be danger. That's what I was pointing out to everyone earlier. So, I mean, I don't think, like I said, I don't think Cambosos wins, but I think it's very highly likely. When you say 35%, I'm with that. I think that's a good number, that this could be an upset.
Hey, I got a short I never put out, man, after Kambosos' last fight, but I got him as my dog horse, man. Yeah, I got him as my dog horse, man. Like, if y'all talking about somebody that's willing to engage, willing to swing while the other puncher is throwing punches, Kambosos is gonna do that. So all I'm saying is he's not the most talented. Don't get me confused. But if Hitchens is not on his A game, Kambosos is gonna take advantage of it.
Yeah, you know, you're talking about a fighter who's been knocked down, who's lost, who's been cut, been dropped, been stopped. He's experienced all that. Now, Hitchens hadn't experienced all that yet. So if Hitchens gets in trouble, he could panic. And a lot of young fighters do panic when they get in trouble like that.
Because I only think Hitchens got a jab, man. They talk that crap about Devin Haney go to the body. To go to the body, you got to get in close. Does Hitchens have good body work? I just don't remember it jumping out of my head. I remember the shotgun jab being really, really good. I remember him not letting his right hand go. I don't really remember a lot of body shots, a lot of body work. If all you got is a jab, Cambosos, he's going to eventually try to get around that jab and land something. You see what I mean? So I think it's going to be, like I said, it's a good fight that Hitchens should win. If he wins, he's going to be better. He's going to be better because of it. But it's a chance, man. Like, that thing might go the other way.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think we I think we all have fair assessments. But to be honest, man, I just with Hitchens, man, I don't look at him as like an elite fighter, man. I don't see it. I'm sorry. Like, I have been waiting for so long, so many performances.
Yep.
I think his last performance that I think when he fought Alamo, that was like one of his complete performance. Like, since then, I haven't seen nothing that's like eye popping to where though it's like I can just 100% or 95% pick him to beat Kambosos, man. I think this is about a 60-40 fight, man. If that, like,
okay.
yeah, I think Cambosus really has a chance to win this fight if Hitchens is not on his A game, man. I really do. I think Cambosus can spoil the party just like Rolly did to Ryan. Styles make fights. I don't think Hitchens like fighters that the Liam Pro fight was a little bit different because even Liam pressures fighters sometimes, but Liam is not really cracking like that. He's not really cracking. So what Hitchens was able to do is work that jab and keep him on the outside a lot. And then if he get a little closer, move up out of there, restart and go, do what he do. But my thing is with Cambosus, bro, he's going to be there. He's not going to let you take a break. He's not going to let you this, that, and the third. He's going to be on you. He was still coming forward with Devin. Devin was killing Cambosus. Cambosus didn't stop. He fought 12 rounds. He just couldn't compete with Devin. Now, Hitchens should go in that ring, and he should show Cambosus that you don't belong in this ring with me. If he don't, Cambosus can win this fight, man.
100%. I agree with you, and that's what. And like I said, we're missing. I think all of us. No, we're not missing. We know it is there, But I think the hydration clause plays a big part in this fight, and that's going to be, I think, the ultimate. Like that's going to set the tone of the fight, in my opinion. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think that's a key element. I don't want to repeat myself, but we have to see how Hitchens rehydrates and gets back into that ring on fight night.
So what is it? 10 pounds, right? He can only be 10 pounds over, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Did you see his George? Did you see his press conference yesterday? Did you see it?
no, I didn't see it. What happened?
Go look at the face off. I don't know if Clay has a clip he can pull up or a picture, but look how small Hitchens looks. Like he already already looks small. That's the problem.
Okay.
That's the problem I have. He already looks small, and on top of him looking small, now you got to move him into to losing more weight to get into the ring. I mean, to get on the scales, and then after that, you have to rehydrate. So he'll probably rehydrate to where he is now. It looks crazy.
Well, but you find Cambosus with somebody who came up from a smaller weight class, so I don't know. Can't do nothing about it. He got to get out there. He got to do what he got to do.
Yeah, and Kambosos don't have to lose the extra 5 pounds no more either. So that's a plus on the top.
Yeah, that's true. So.
It's a very well balanced accusation to say that Kambosos can win this fight. Like it's not bad. You can't go wrong if you're putting your money up. That might be a fight to put your money on.
I think that Hitchens, I don't know, man. I think there's a good chance that Hitchens is going to be okay because I think he's hired a nutritionist. I think the way he's looking right now is probably just part of is just he's not going to look. He's a big 140 pounder, and if he's cutting the weight, he's going to look a certain way. The question is he's doing it correctly or not? If he's doing it correctly, then that means he'll rehydrate in a proper way for the night of the fight. So whatever he looks like on the scale, he'll be confident going into that fight. If he has that nutritionist that he did when he went against Liam Paro, you saw how he looked at the weight cut with the Liam Paro. It was very similar. He looked like, you know what I mean? But he came back. By the time the fight came, he was hydrated completely in a way that made him confident to fight Liam Paro the way he did. I don't know, man. I think Hitchens is going to make a statement. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Hitchens is going to school Kambosos, and dare I say, I think he's going to do Kambosos worse than Devin did. You know what I'm saying? I think Devin was depleted and dehydrated and not a strong fighter against Kambosos. He just used a lot of skill. I think Hitchens is going to be a strong fighter against Kambosos. And I think.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you something real quick? Do y'all think that it's a lot of fighters that are like fighting below the weight class that they should truly be in, and they shrinking down to make these weight classes?
Bro, this is part of the game. You know, my thing is if you make it on a scale, I respect it. If you make it on the scale, it's up. I don't even judge it anymore because, like I think Ross Scott said before, anybody under a heavyweight is a weight bully. You know what I'm saying? Because anybody underneath a heavyweight division is cutting weight to be in a division right where they fighting at. They're all weight bullies, bro. They're all supposed to be.
Yeah, I was saying that because of Keyshawn, older brother that lost to Nair. Bro, seeing his size in the ring, I'm like, this dude fight at 140?
Right.
It's huge.
Yeah, man. You know, they're cutting a lot of weight and they're depleting themselves, and they, you know, the weight cut. The weight cut is a competition within itself. You know what I'm saying? Like the weight cut and the nutrition and the preparation is a different competition within itself from the actual fight in the ring. If you lose, you can be the better fighter, but you can lose a fight based off of a bad weight cut, right? You can lose a fight based off of not preparing accordingly. And I'm not just talking about boxing wise. I'm talking about cutting the weight the right way. Errol Spence was somebody who's gone on record to say that he cut weight like a savage. He didn't walk around in boxing shape. He walked around in good shape, but when it came time for him to get ready for a fight, he was cutting major weight. You know what I'm saying? To get ready for a fight. It was only going to be a matter of time before something like that caught up to him. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Clay, I put the link, the second link, not the first one. I copied the wrong one in the private chat. You can, if you want. But it's just kind of like a face-off type thing. You can see them how close they are. Look, Hitchens is obviously he's a taller, he's a much bigger fighter, but it's just you can obviously see a difference in in them guys. And Kambosos is no giant himself. Don't get it twisted. But he's on weight. Is what I'm saying. He's on weight. He's comfortable. It just looks comfortable, but how comfortable is he going to be? You know what I mean? Like how much does he put on the line? Like you can see in his arms, his shoulders, like he looks much smaller than Kambosos. I mean, they're in sweatshirts, so we can't really see the details, but we'll find out when it's weight cut day. Like it's a to me, it's a difference. Even in that one where they first met, you know what I mean? When they first met in the blue right there, when they had the blue on, look how big Hitchens is compared in that picture than he is now. Like it's a solid difference. You know what I mean? You're talking about a 167-pound guy stepping to a guy who's 150 max, 52 max, 154, to now a guy who's coming in on weight at 140. You know what I mean? Probably already at 140 and walking around, to a guy who's shrunk down to 147, 143, 144, to come in on weight. And I'm just hoping, listen, man, I'm just hoping that Hitchens, hoping he gets a tweak, but that IBF rule is that's the problem. What's up? Tommy the Hitman. What's going on, man? Look at that. Rick Timms in the building. Ill Will, salute.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'll be looking forward to see the weigh-ins, see what he looks like. Shout out to Ill Will with the $2 holler. Said fight IBF title eliminator is better main event. I think he's talking about the Andy Cruz fight.
Yeah.
Didn't they just line up a Moses a teammate fight? Are we supposed to be headline or something?
Yeah,
Who?
Moses versus Dylan White. To me, that's a good fight. That's a good fight. I don't know if it's a headline fight, but it's a good fight for Moses.
Moses between Billy and White, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, for sure. That's going down. But guys, it's about that time for me. I'm about to move around. You know what I mean? I'm sure Ray needs to go and catch some rest. We got to get ready to get his day going. Or his day going. I appreciate all you guys. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's 52 people in the building. Please hit that like button if you haven't done it. Take a moment to go ahead and do that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll let you guys go ahead and give your outros, get your final word. Go ahead and
I would say this, man. Don't let these narratives hijack your mind. As far as these fights and running, it's a reason why these guys at the top. If all it takes is running to be a great fighter, then I should become a fighter. So these guys are at the top of the game for a reason. So don't get fooled by the narratives. And a great boxing coming up, man. Can't wait, man. I noticed they PBC ain't announced the Tank fight, and I had my speculation that fight might not happen. But I think they also got the September 20th date reserved, so you might see a change. But appreciate you letting me come up, man. Clay and Ray, man, and I'll holler at y'all.
No doubt, too, Ray. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, man, it's always a pleasure coming up here and talking to you guys. Like he said, man, I'm just ready to see some boxing, man. That's it. I hope it's a good rest of the year of competitive boxing, and that's it from a boxing fan. I just want to see good fights, man. I don't care who it is, and I don't really get into all that other stuff, man. I just like the fights, the fighters, and that's just what I want to see, man. So I'll leave by saying, assalamu alaikum to my brother Clay, the rest of the chat. Y'all have a blessed day, man.
Walaikum salam, brother. For sure. Okay, Ray. Another one in the bag, man.
Yes, sir.
Did it again. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody who came out here, man. How'd you feel about the show today, man?
Listen, like I said, when I tapped in, man, it was nothing but fireworks. I'm glad I got the time. I had to wake up a little bit as I jumped in. Still was waking up, but listen, man, great content as usual. You know what I mean? Well-rounded around, news around the sport. Not so much focus on certain things. Yeah, we have topics that we build on a little bit more, but great show, man. Ultimately,
we didn't get to talk about this though.
Oh, we can talk about it.
So Turkey said for the undercard. Did you hear what the statement he made?
Go ahead, because I heard somebody.
You didn't hear it? I'll pull it up. Hold on, let me find it. Let me see. Hold on. Here we go. Let me put it up. Hold on. I found it. All right.
This is for entertainment purposes.
Yeah, it's Twitter. Turkey. They ain't gonna touch.
I'm just messing around, Clay.
Biggest fight in boxing and in history in the last 10 years and maybe more. Thank you, Shepard, from the team of Canelo. Thank you, Ash, the Hunters. And this is very good opportunity for the talent in boxing. We will make the undercard, all the undercard about talent because we have the biggest fight. We don't need big fight in the undercard. For that, we will give the chance for the talent. If you think you are ready to be in the undercard of Canelo Crawford, come talk with us. And maybe you will have chance. Thank you and see you in Vegas the 13th of September, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And just invite out to my family, bro. He get on that undercard. Get to see him live.
Yeah. So what do you think about him? Basically, he's basically letting us know that he's not putting big fights on the undercard. That they're going to be all, contenders or prospect level, prospect contenders, people, talent that he wants to see get an opportunity to be on a big stage.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I like it because you get better fights, right? And you're dialing into the big fight. So it's almost like it's like a concert. You go to the concert or a comedy show, you get all these traveling comics. I'll use that as an example better, right? You get all these traveling comics, you really don't know who they are, they're on the rise, but they, because they have something, you kind of get entertained by them. Same thing with these young boxers. You know what I mean? Some of these boxers are really good. Yeah, we may know some names, we may not know some names, but at the same time, these boxers are coming into this ring. All these other fighters are coming to this ring to win. They're coming to make a statement and get their name known. This is their opportunity for the light to be shined on them. So yes, it's better that way. When you have somebody that's in the limelight already, and you know what I mean, they need to be a co-main or they need to be, they're a big name. What happens? You get underperformance, and that's on all parties. I mean, we've seen the first five. We've seen like a lot of these fights that he put on where he stacked the cards with superstars. Yes, they're great fights, but then what are you saving for next month? What are you saving for 2 weeks from now? You know what I mean? You can put on multiple events with all these guys. Why pile everything into one card? You can. It is exciting for the sport, but its expectations are, are here. And then it doesn't live up to there. Then everybody's kicking his back in. Now you have guys on there that are going to come to this fight that you have no expectations for it, but it gives you an eye of the young talent. It gives you a sight into seeing what boxing's future holds, right? So now it helps us have a visualize of what's coming forward. And then we get to the main event, which we all been waiting for, and we get to see the big show. We get to see the fight we anticipated. And if it doesn't live up to the hype, guess what? We still got some good fights on the bottom of that card, and we got to learn who somebody was or know somebody. So at the end of the day, I like it. I think it's a good look for boxing. It's always been about that. I mean, you just brought Wednesday night fights onto a main card, which is cool. I'm all for that.
Yeah. I think that I see Rick Tim put in there how much is going to be left to pay legitimate undercard fights. And once again, the budget's never really been an issue for Turkey. I do think it's interesting though that they're not gonna. I think this is what I think. Let me get right to it and not cut any corners. I think Dana White, TKO, Nick Khan, Turki Alalshikh is going to use this with the Netflix deal. They're using this as a platform and an opportunity to bolster up their campaign that they're about to kick off with this new TKO campaign, which is going to be focused around the up and coming fighters, not the big fighters who need money, the fighters who need development. And I think they're going to use this as a grand opening of TKO. I think they're going to try to introduce some of the bigger stars that they're going to try to put up as the big stars of TKO. Dana's going to pick these fighters. These are fighters that are going to fight under TKO. They're not going to fight, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, they're going to be TKO fighters. That's what I believe. What do you think?
That's good. Listen, man, I'm all for that, Clay. And whether they come through as CKO fighters. Maybe he found them in his in the WBO limit challenge thing, right? Put some of those back on, get these guys known. Like I said, it's all about the sport. And the only way you bring a sport in is by having a B league or a C league or under a development league, right? And these guys are already pros. They already went through their amateurs. But these are guys that are trying to be recognized. Every fighter wants to be recognized. I think Coach Eddie said it once, where 1 out of every 1,000 fighters are recognized or are brought into the game. So it's a small talent pool. Now you're opening up the doors to get eyes on people that are out there that are boxing. They're on these other cards, and they're under the cards, right? So they're not being recognized because nobody knows who they are. Now they have a chance to get action, to get acclimated to fighting, get more fights under their belts, to build themselves up to be somebody. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. All right, man. Go ahead, give the last statement, man. Let the people know what they need to know so we can get out of here. Huh?
That's the last statement. I have nothing for y'all today. I mean, I do, but I'm tired as hell.
No doubt.
Appreciate y'all. You know what I mean? Thanks for hitting the opening of the chat. You know what I mean? Thanks for joining us. Smash the like button. And if you don't, I'm coming to see you when I wake up. Don't worry. I will find you. And okay. Smash the like button, y'all. Subscribe if you haven't. You know what I mean? Share the content. And don't be afraid to say what's up every once in a while, man. We always here. So shout out to y'all and thank you all.
No doubt, no doubt. It's your boy Clay. It's your boy Ray. It's at ATB Combat Media Show. And at this point,
we out.